Hey everybody, it's your boy, Tucker Woolley. I tried drafting this apology on my iPhone Notes app several times, only to conclude it would only be appropriate if I told you to your face. Or to a screen that's aimed at your face. Maybe your personal computer, maybe your couch. Maybe you're watching this on the toilet. Imagine I'm in the room with you while you're on the toilet. Actually, please don't. It's time I broke my silence and took some accountability. I'm not gonna sit here and continue to steal Mario knowing valor. I took some time to reflect. I sat my white ass down and listened. Now that I know I spread misinformation to some 30,000 people, no less. Of course, one of the most popular things I've ever made would also just be blatantly wrong. I can say with more understanding than ever that I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make a Mario oopsie. It was a healthy mix of research negligence and what I'm tepidly diagnosing as widespread cultural misinformedness. Is that a thing? It is now. But what was I wrong about? Kind of everything. That's what this video is meant to rectify. This video is a strange one. We're gonna get into it right now. It's time to make things right. If you hung out in the comments of my Mario video, you may have seen that I, self-proclaimed Tucker middle name Mario Knower Woolley, was thoroughly, credibly, and kindly debunked on every single point I made in that video, primarily by a fine young man named Sean D. Walsh. Sometimes you are wrong, and it's okay to be wrong. Sometimes you are wrong about quite literally every single point you made in the video, and that's also okay, because thank God the video was about Mario of all things, and not spreading misinformation about stuff that mattered and that could harm people. It's silly to do all this over a YouTube video about Mario from a micro channel that only had about 1,500 views, since, again, it's very inconsequential misinformation. However, then it blew up, and continued to blow up until it was far away the most viewed thing on my YouTube channel, and one of my most viewed things in general. Back when the views were still middling, but after Sean had made his comment, my peer and friend Zilla from Zilla's Athenaeum, go subscribe, gave me some advice. She said not to worry so much about reach, and ask myself, what do I want to put out in the world? And my answer to myself was that I want to do my best to present accurate information when I'm purporting to, and to admit that I'm wrong when I'm wrong. So I felt a moral obligation to make this video and correct myself. Though, as you'll see soon, it was pretty much entirely other people who did the actual correcting. Again, I don't want to equate my mistake here to like actually harmful journalistic misinformation that ruins lives, nor do I want to assert myself as like a noble person for retracting it. This is a video about Mario. Later on it becomes about some other stuff too, but that's entirely my own baggage and only has anything to do with the retractions and corrections in this video because my being wrong about Mario sort of spurred on those feelings. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Honestly, I feel like I was less wrong, but I was definitely often wrong, and more that I had my mind changed by the comments so dramatically that I felt the need to do all of this. So let's set the record straight. I love a good sequel. I'm hoping this one takes the first video and hits it right in the kisser with a blue shell, or a banana peel, or some other appropriate Mario metaphor. The way this will work is that I'll first restate the misconception I made in the original video, and then I'll present the alternative true facts presented to me in the comments by the person who made them, interspersed heavily with footage from a 4-hour conversation Sean and I had over Discord. Thanks again to Sean for talking to me and being just so cool. I'm gonna plug his work a lot throughout this video, but here's your first call to action. Go subscribe to Sean. I also want to say a very deep thank you to everyone who commented on the video and took the time to correct me in a polite and gentle way. I want to particularly thank those neurodivergent and or autistic commenters who said the video made them feel seen. I am extremely happy about that. You are who I made it for, and you are who I'm making this for as well. Video game fans in general, and Mario fans specifically, can be pedantic in ways that are not very nice, to say the least. But what I experienced was far from a mob of angry commenters couching their corrections in personal attacks. Instead, it was a bunch of people who were thorough, cordial, and even complimentary of the video, even though the whole premise of it is severely undermined by the points raised. One more disclaimer. We state this much later in the interview, but one thing I think is going to be valuable to say up top is that, despite Sean's research and labor, this is still merely one way of interpreting the events of the games. Really, you can interpret them any way you want. Neither of us can or intend to stop you. The only reason I let Sean derail my interpretation is because I came to really identify with his way of thinking, and from the quote-unquote text of the games, as I personally see it, it's hard for me to argue with his reading. But you might, and that's okay. And when I make assertions in this video that points have been debunked, and about what is or isn't true, I only mean so in the context of what I stated in my previous video and or against or for more popular fan theories, all of which are still valid interpretations of the games. I've just personally come around to Sean's way of thinking and found it enlightening enough to want to share. Let's keep being nice to each other in the comments. It goes a long way. So, here is the interview. How are you? So this is what's probably going to be the bulk of my video, which is just me talking to you. And you are Sean DeWalsh.
I am Sean D. Walsh. Yep,
Sean
that's me.
D. Walsh. Sean the Walsh.
Sean D. Walsh, yeah. That's what my friends call me.
Matt the Pat.
Matt the Pat, yeah. Could you imagine?
I should introduce, because not everybody may be, even though you have more subscribers than me and everything, like, not everybody may be familiar with you. So,
yeah, of course.
So this is Sean. He left a comment on my Mario video that just thoroughly disproved the entire thing and changed my life a little bit, because I thought I was so sure about being unsure about Mario, but really I had no idea, and I felt a legitimate religious awakening. No, not quite religious, but almost. I love your channel a lot. I've watched all the videos. I think debunking Matt Pat is a public service of sorts. The podcast is extremely funny and good.
Oh, I love doing that.
It is so much fun. I would recommend anyone, well, first of all, watch literally all of these videos if you liked my original video, because they are in the same spirit but with information that is more educated. But also, this podcast is incredibly good. It reminds me so much of just like how I interact with my friends, and kind of always have, because we also have a similar Mario brain rot, just like among me and my longtime internet friends who, as you said, like kind of grew up on the same places a lot of the time. And just the interjecting of like, hey, isn't it weird how like it was in the middle of this episode, you like mentioned something about Kamek, and it was just totally out of the blue, and it just reminded me so much about how my friends and I are just like, hey, where's Donkey Kong Jr.? Or like,
yeah. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because we had a lot of fun making it. We didn't make it any more episodes. I think that was it's a year ago now.
Yeah.
But I think everyone just had like schedule conflicts, and like just doesn't work out.
I'm sure it's extremely hard. The plan here that I had in mind is to kind of go through, your comment was already very thorough, but to go through the original comment on the video to just clarify all of these things. I would like to set the record straight for me and the sake of my credibility, but also if you had any other trivia about these things to add, again, original comment was very thorough, but I don't know, maybe we could look at some manuals together. I've got the instruction booklets up here.
I'd just like to say that, like, I feel like your stance in the video is what a lot of people do feel about Mario, and I think that I am definitely in the minority when it comes to this sort of thing.
Yes.
So again, like I think I've said this before, but like you shouldn't feel bad that you didn't know any
of this
stuff, or because it's absolutely just you being a normal person and me being like this weird analytical Mario
having
guy.
The Mario brain rot.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I understand that. And I think that, like, I'm lucky to be in a place in my life where I'm open to... and again, the thing that I've been saying about this the whole time is, like, thank God this wasn't about something actually important. Like...
Exactly.
Thank God I wasn't wrong about, like, some overt political...
Yes, really...
Yeah. Yep. Which is just, like, that also happens, and that is also fine as long as you take steps. But, like, it was just cracking me up, because I was just like, thank God I was willing to listen. And like, when I started reading your comment, it starts out like this. It says, I think it's rather safe to say, despite what the majority of the internet would have you believe, that Mario has a consistent canon and was intended to from the very beginning. And when you started it like that, literally like an essay, I was like, I'm so interested to see where this goes. Like immediately, I was always going to read it. I read all the comments right now. I'm at that stage where it's not like completely overwhelming to me to do that. But when you started it out like this, like with such a good faith argument and everything, I was just like, well, I'm completely in, like, change my mind. Future editing Tucker here. This will begin my periodic interjections into this interview from the future. Our conversation jumped around a lot and didn't really go in the order of Sean's original comment, which is totally my fault as the interviewer. In editing, I thought it'd be appropriate to do a few introductions to each comment, giving you the SparkNotes versions of both of our takes, and then you can hear us go into it from the actual interview clips. So, misconception number 1. Dr. Mario is a separate entity from regular Mario, possibly due to some clone shit. Perhaps related relatedly, but perhaps not, Mario does not appear to have a belly button. Sean's conclusion, there is actually a lot of official evidence to suggest that Mario and Dr. Mario are the same guy. Also, we most likely don't see Mario's belly button in Odyssey because he's noticeably wearing his shorts weirdly high. Also, because reproduction in the Mario world seems to be mostly wish-based, belly buttons in the traditional sense may not even really be a thing. We discuss that here. It seems that some people are incapable of coming to that conclusion, like even thinking about that as a possibility. He might just be very talented.
Yeah, and I think that that's how they frame him on like all the official descriptions in his websites. It's like they always bring up how Mario goes on adventures and stuff, but also because he's so athletic due to his adventures, that helps him be good at tennis and be good at golf and soccer. And
he's parkour master, and he's like an Olympian. He's literally an Olympian.
Yeah, and I think that Mario's had a lot of jobs, and he's played a lot of roles, but I think it's funny in that same interview, that same Game Informer interview with Miyamoto, he says that Dr. Mario is not a legitimate doctor.
Right.
Like, he explains that fact.
Mario revelation number 1. According to Miyamoto, Dr. Mario is not a real doctor.
Because like a lot of people are like, well, when would Mario have had the time to get a doctor's license?
Yeah.
You know? But no, he literally says that, no, he's not a legitimate doctor. Maybe he's a licensed pharmacist or something.
Right.
Because he does go around giving pills to people.
Uh-huh.
Also said pills are vitamins. So
yeah, it's interesting. That's kind of a snake oil salesman thing a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
But also, you have to think about how, like, medicine in this universe works, because medicine is literally a puzzle game. So, or at least his form of medicine is a puzzle game. So, yeah, it's strange. And then also, like, how the body works, or at least, like, Koopa bodies.
So much fun.
Yeah, Bowser just has a whole ecosystem in there, so it makes you wonder, like, do other characters... Is that true for, like, does Luigi have a little platforming sections in his ribcage? Like, what?
Probably.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Mario revelation number 2. There is a non-zero chance that everyone in the Mario universe's bodily systems work like video games.
I love to imagine that that's the case.
Me too.
I hope it's the case.
Uh-huh.
But like, it's super fun. Like, I think actually a lot of the doctors in Mario are all use this kind of like snake oily alternative medicine stuff.
Mario revelation number 3. A lot of, if not all, medicine in the Mario universe is herbal and what we would consider alternative medicine.
I think Superstar Saga, Mario gets like bean fever, and he sends Luigi to like this ruin to get Krabby Grass and like bring it back, and that's the cure, and that actually works.
It's all herbal.
Like in Bowser Jr.'s journey, Bowser Jr.'s main quest in the game is to like make Skeletone Formula D, and he like goes around, he gets like a piece of the Giga Carrot and an Omega Onion from Cavi Cape and Ever Ice, which they never explain where it comes from, but Kamek had collected it for Bowser previously, and like you mix all that together, and then it makes these little tablets, which apparently cure the blorbs and also make your bones soggy.
Yeah, weird, but
yeah, and Bowser like overdoses on them and becomes Dry Bowser.
Yeah, which I didn't see at all. Yeah, I hadn't played that yet.
Yeah.
But I recently just watched a long play of it, and yeah, it like Dry Bowser is fucking there.
It's crazy.
It's great.
And when Mario and Wario in Dr. Mario 64 overdose on the Mega Vitamins, like the main Dr. Mario capsules, and Mario becomes Metal Mario and Wario becomes Vampire Wario. Like, all these medicines seem to have crazy side effects.
Are power-ups medicine? Mario revelation number 4. There's a non-zero chance that power-ups are medicine?
I mean, technically, yeah, because if you eat a super mushroom, it heals you. Or if you eat a one-up mushroom, it revives you from a knockout. You know, that there's a...
Right, like in the RPGs, they're sold as healing items.
Yeah, so I feel like all of the... Maybe that's why it's all, like, kind of herbal-based, or, like, all of these items that people are making medicine out of are power-ups that people, you know, use.
Right, I guess I guess that is what herbal medicine is. It's naturally occurring medicine, which is what that would be. Yeah? That tracks.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it before, but like that makes complete sense.
Yeah, that tracks. This is how I felt reading your entire comments and then also the timeline as a whole. I just kept being like, yeah, that makes sense. That actually makes perfect sense. Yeah, really interesting. Mario's belly button. I felt real stupid. Yeah, it's probably just being covered by his shorts. He's like, normally you don't have high-waisted boxer shorts necessarily, but also like, yeah, Mario's a little weirdo.
He's a tiny little man, and I think
so
that he probably
small.
pulls his pants up really high.
Yeah, he probably can't find things in his size. Well, I guess that's not necessarily true because all the outfits in Odyssey are like perfectly tailored.
True. Yeah.
But like, I don't know, maybe they're up high too. Maybe he's an above the belt kind of guy. Mario Revelation number 5. There's a non-zero chance that Mario is just an above the belt kind of guy.
Maybe, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's plausible, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think like a lot of people were like a few years ago when Mario first seemingly didn't have a belly button and Peach did.
Yeah.
Were like, oh, that's because Mario is delivered by storks, but then Peach isn't. But I'm 90% sure that the intention for the Mario universe is that all sexual reproduction is done via stork delivery.
Yes. Mario Revelation number 6. There is a non-zero chance that all sexual reproduction in the Mario universe happens via wish and stork.
And while asexual reproduction with Yoshi's is just like eat a lot, lay an egg, baby.
Yeah. Eggs are not really used for, except for at the end of Yoshi's Island DS, right? When the baby Yoshi is born, the Star Child baby Yoshi is born.
Yeah, beginning of Yoshi's Story as well.
Right.
A few other games, Yoshi for the NES, Chef Modern version, the Game & Watch Gallery game.
God. Yeah.
Even like some of the Yoshis in Super Mario World are babies, right? You hatch them.
Yeah. So like clearly it's a thing that happens, but also like, yeah, probably not in that way.
Yeah.
Where do you think this magical land where babies come from is? What's the nature of this? Because if this is how literally all or almost all sexual reproduction works in Mario, where is it? Is it like another dimension? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think my belief is that there is, because so the way it works, at least as far as I've pieced together, is a couple both wish to the stars. Stars are the creators of the Mario universe,
right?
Etc. Couple wishes to the stars for a baby. The wishes are received by the stars in Starhaven. They use the star rod to wish a baby into existence. Baby appears in the clouds, and the storks fly up to this cloud place and take the babies and deliver them to their homes.
Yeah.
And obviously this process probably doesn't happen, like, process would probably take months, if anything. Because I think the babies kind of don't just pop in. I think they do have to probably grow a little bit, or, you know, maybe there's like a whole production line of babies, and the storks have to come along and
belt.
You know, and they have to like sign like documents to, you know, make sure that they get them delivered to the correct house and all this stuff. Because like I think it seems like a really, I don't know, like rudimentary system. In like the stork in Yoshi's Island has a map, like just a regular map, and he's flying around with his map.
Right.
And
yeah.
it's like
Mario Revelation number 7. The whole stork thing may or may not work a lot like that movie Storks. Remember that movie Storks? Yeah. I was gonna say, like, is there a bureaucracy behind this? Because it kind of seems like if their solution was to just leave it to a tribal society of dinosaurs who are obviously very intelligent, but also, like, something that this is kind of a tangent, but something that I always say is that, like, Yoshi is so cool, and, like, the Yoshi society is so cool because, like, they're omnivores. They had food drop on their back, literally from the sky, divine intervention, and they abstained. They took however long the events of Yoshi's Island took to daisy chain baby Mario back to his parents. Like, that's pretty cool. Good for Yoshi and friends.
Very kind of them.
Very cool of them. They're just cool guys.
And I like in the sequels, they have like the Yoshis also want to get rid of Bowser or baby Bowser or whatever because he's taken over the island.
Right.
But like in the original game, it is literally, they have no reason to help this baby aside from the fact that the baby needs to be helped.
It's just so nice. Out of the kindness of their own hearts.
Yeah.
It's incredible. That they even know where to go is wild. And
they imply that they know where to go partially due to the stork's map, but mainly because baby Mario has a psychic link with Luigi that tells him Luigi's location at all times.
At all times?
Yeah, and he leads the Yoshis to where baby Luigi is, or like to the nearest path to where they can get to baby Luigi.
Mario Revelation number 8. Mario and Luigi have a for real psychic twin link.
Which is like...
So this is why Mario is missing wouldn't happen.
I guess not.
Yeah. What about Luigi's Mansion?
Luigi's Mansion, well, I think that Mario knows that Luigi is coming to get him in Luigi's Mansion before, and I feel like that's probably maybe the same thing. Also, maybe when they grew up, that psychic link faded. You know, maybe they're less aware of that now, but when they were babies...
Yeah.
It's Yoshi's, I think it's Yoshi's New Island that specifies that they have a brotherly bond or like some like just a supernatural ability that allows them to tell where they are in relation to each other.
That's fascinating.
And I think because in Yoshi's New Island, Mario falls on the island and then immediately like starts crawling towards where baby Luigi is. And then the Yoshis, they notice him and they all like surround him and they try to stop him from leaving. And they're like, oh wait, he must be trying to get somewhere. Let's follow him or let's like let him lead the way.
Yeah, he just knows.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
It's that brother sense. Like you hear about that kind of thing with twins. Didn't they describe them as twins in something?
They are twins, yeah.
Yeah.
They're always twins.
Yeah, they've always been twins, huh?
Mario is the older twin, but they are twins.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah, well, so they've got that twin sense.
Yep.
Which is taken, like, very literally in the Mario universe, as are a lot of things. I also like this image a lot of the Star Cloud umbilical cord. That just kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Misconception number 2. I said that, in spite of the Koopalings having been retconned as not being Bowser's biological children, the Koopalings are adopted children of Bowser. Also, mostly in jest, I said that Bowser Jr. is the third Mario brother due to Miyamoto saying that he is both Bowser Jr.'s mom and Mario's papa. You should watch the first video if that sounded like nonsense, which it is. Sean's conclusion, the Koopalings are not Bowser's children, adopted or otherwise. Also, Miyamoto's parentage to any of his fictional characters is very likely not literal, much less religious in nature. In this section, we also refute a popular fan theory I didn't bring up in the original video, which is that the Mario games are all stage plays and the Mario characters a troupe of actors. Sean concludes this isn't the case and asserts that the stage play aesthetic of Mario 3 was an artistic choice, not meant to be interpreted literally. He posits this of the other Mario games as well, and their world maps, suggesting that the conspicuous redactions of certain geography and locations are merely artistic choices by whoever drew up the maps themselves. We also discuss the nature of collaborative storytelling and Miyamoto's ownership or non-ownership of the characters. We also go into Sean's exhaustive Mario timeline and the implication it has on our discussion. So yes, I was joking about Bowser Jr. However, something I did get egregiously wrong is that the Koopalings aren't adopted. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that. I think it's because in this interview, Miyamoto phrases it in a certain way that just kind of like tipped me off. I'm not trying to make excuses.
Again,
or
I think
anything,
I think it's probably the Polygon one. Because it literally just says Miyamoto says Koopalings are adopted.
Are essentially adopted. Okay.
Yeah. Go up to the title of the article.
Oh yeah, and Bowser kids are adopted. Oh Jesus, yeah. Well, they shouldn't have put that in the title then. Yeah.
Nope.
Damn. Come on, Polygon.com.
Yeah, I expect better.
Yeah, I expect some more journalistic integrity. Yeah, Bowser's only child. And yeah, that also, on my part, and I think on everybody's part, is like discounting the legitimacy of adopted childhood because...
Children, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, those are your kids, even if they're adopted.
Yeah.
But yeah, the phrasing there is very specific. And it's like generally to avoid being conspiratorial about things in general. Like, I do generally think that people aren't necessarily putting as much thought into things as we think they are. But in this case, it seems like maybe they were.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd... I feel like with the Polygon thing that maybe they just didn't get that it was a full retcon. Right. Maybe they were saying, oh, well, they still said they were his kids in Mario Bros. 3. So I guess that they're like at least in the mind of this Polygon writer, that the only way you could be not someone's kid and someone's kid is if you're adopted, which just isn't how adoption works.
Yeah,
again.
that's
but
not...
I feel like that's the only way that I could see them reaching that conclusion, you know? But like even the new games, which have like a lot of focus on Bowser's minions,
right?
They do not paint them anywhere close to being Bowser's kids. He very much treats them like minions.
Yes.
Of course, he respects them a lot and he treats them with as much care as anyone else in his army, but they call him boss and master and blah, blah, blah. And when Bowser Jr. takes over the Koopa Kingdom in the future, as is mentioned throughout Bowser Jr.'s journey, he will be their boss. You know, he's not going to be their brother or even their cousin or whatever. He's just their boss, their leader.
Yeah, he's already kind of like shadowing Bowser's duty in being the boss a couple of times. He's kind of led them, namely in Bowser Jr.'s journey. So like he's taking up the mantle already. Yeah,
and I think a lot of the reason why they went with the direction they did in Bowser Jr.'s journey was I think they had an interview with some of the Alpha Dream writers back in 2019, and they said that the original Bowser's Inside Story came out earlier in the same year that the Koopalings were like properly reintroduced in New Super Mario Bros. Wii.
Oh yeah.
So they were both 2009.
Oh god.
And
that happened at the same time.
Yeah, it was after that where the Alpha Dream staff were kind of like, well, what were the Koopalings and Bowser Jr. up to during the events of the game we just made? And so then when they were making this remake, they were like, oh, we can actually tell that story now and elaborate on their relationship with each other and with Bowser. And so that's that's why we got so much depth to these characters, and a lot of people are like, oh no, not the Kooplings again, because they have had a lot of relevance in the last decade or so, but
like putting them in an RPG setting like this, like that's not going to be interesting. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. I think they've added a lot of depth to the characters. They've really given them individual personalities which fit them a lot, and they've done a really good job at, like, I've never felt that there's been an oversaturation with the Kooplings.
No, me neither, honestly. I just think it's cool to see them back. Like, I remember in 2009 me thinking, like, and at that point I was like 11, but even still I was like, wow, it's really cool to see them back. I didn't think they'd bring them back. I thought that they just kind of retconned them entirely in favor of Bowser Jr. But it's like, no, they coexist, which is so much more interesting, I think.
It is really interesting. And then, like, I thought the same thing when that happened. But then, like, recently I realized that Iggy is in Super Mario Sunshine. Iggy Koopa is in Super Mario. He has a cameo. There's footage of Mario fighting him on the flood scan at the beginning of the game.
So, the flood scan.
Yeah, so they were never, like, retconned.
Oh my
but
God.
They were there. That was interesting. And of course, like, Superstar Saga still had them a year later, so
everything's intentional. Everything. Or almost everything. With a few just tiny exceptions that have butterflied out into the landscape that we know today. Do you think, let's settle this, do you think that there's some Immaculate Conception thing going on? Not in the way that I described, which was mostly a joke, but in the sense that, like, because I think him being the father or mother, quote unquote, it does kind of go against what we were saying about the nature of collaborative storytelling, which it seems like they at Nintendo are maybe a little bit more aware of than we give them credit for. It's like, then Mario has multiple mothers. Like, do you think Koizumi would call himself Mario's dad or mom as well? And do you think that Miyamoto would, like, agree with that? I guess we have no way of knowing, but
I think the difference with Miyamoto saying that he's Mario's mother or Mario's dad, that's him being, like, jokingly meta.
Right.
He's like, I created these characters, therefore I am their papa, I am their mama, and I think that that's also his, like, kind of sneaky way of weaseling around any lore questions that he gets asked, because again, he usually tends to not answer them, at least not directly, and when he does answer them, fans go crazy because he says, like, he just says crazy things, but especially about Zelda, like, he just says the weirdest things about the Zelda time. It's really interesting that Miyamoto thing, because, like, I feel literally Shigeru Miyamoto tries not to claim Mario as just his. He's always, like, from the very beginning, there's been so many other people involved, Tezuka, and then, like, later Koizumi. And they're all, Mario is and always has been a collaborative world. And I think boiling it down to, he created Mario, therefore he has the final say, is just a little silly. Like, especially since he hasn't been that involved in Mario games since, like he hasn't been a director since 64. He hasn't been since Sunshine. I think he hasn't, like, actively taken part in development. He's just a quote unquote creative fellow. So I feel like he definitely has an influence, of course, and he's definitely always there, and he's making sure that things are true to the world and to the characters, but he's not the be all and end all of Mario, and especially not of Mario canon, because he just doesn't have that much of an interest in it.
This is true. Like, clearly his priorities lie somewhere else, so I don't know why people think that he would even, like, care that much to make de facto statements that are immediately canon because he says so, Mario Revelation number 9. You probably shouldn't take most things Miyamoto says about the Mario canon as gospel. History shows his priorities are elsewhere, and that's okay.
Exactly. I always think it's funny when you look at a Miyamoto interview, and this applies to Zelda as well, because he's very creative Zelda, he's very involved in Zelda, but whenever he's asked a lore-related question in any interview about any game that he's worked on, he always either diverts the answer to it being sort of an IP related or gameplay related answer, or he gives a lore answer which is completely wrong and makes no sense, and then other people have to come out afterwards and correct him on what he said. It's really very funny.
He's a game designer, like, through and through, He
is, and he's created all these great characters. He's just not a story focused guy.
He's a game designer, he's a character designer, something that your comment and the timeline, which is the other thing that I just want to bring up because I think it's incredible. Thank you. I mean, look at this. Like, you need to understand about Sean's timeline, people watching the video. video. The Game & Watch games are on this thing. The fucking Excite Bike is on this thing. Like, there are the Excite Bike levels where you can play as Mario characters sometimes.
There's an Excite Bike game for the Satellaview, in which you play as Mario characters the entire time, but it was as Satellaview games were. It was like streamed, more or less. So like you'd have different seasons, and then it was unplayable after the Satellaview service ended. So, but it was entirely based on the original Excite Bike, but you would, Mario characters, Mario, Peach, Wario, playing against Koopa Troopas.
Yes.
And that, at least in my mind, is where the Excite Bike arena in Mario Kart 8 comes from,
Yeah, here it is. God.
Yep. And it's funny because it's a Japanese title, so you wouldn't even know it's Excite Bike.
Yeah, I had to literally, I was looking at it exactly like you see me looking at it right now, and I hovered over it, which also, shout out to the graphic design of it is incredible, but also just even the little UI things, like when I hover over the thing, it says the title in English, which is really ingenious. Yeah, definitely look at this.
All done by Lady Sophie 17, who's on Tumblr.
Yes.
Very good friend of mine, works on all the maps and graphics and everything that we do. And she has these great posts on the ancient kingdoms of Mario and different locations and their histories, and super cool blogs. So
cool.
Also
is that
worth
this
checking out.
cartographer's office one?
That is, yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I've been meaning to look at her work. This is incredible. Look at this. This is just so satisfying to look at for me, because it's like, oh,
I know.
Somebody's
Even
thought
to
of
me,
it.
I've seen it dozens of times, and every time I look at it, I'm just like, I have to see every little detail of the map. It's so cool.
Oh my god, I love this. Again, graphic design wise.
That one's mine, actually.
Oh, good job. Jeez.
That was based on the Splatoon relationship chart. I was just like, oh, Mario could have one of these.
Yeah,
because
that looks
I think
really
a lot of
cute.
people don't get their relationships right.
This is true. Yeah, people thinking that Wario and Waluigi are related. How do you describe it here? Is a reluctant sports partner. Yeah, I mean, that's all we could really say until somebody says differently. But it's probably not going to be Miyamoto.
Probably not, no.
Yeah, that's why that Mario Myths video and the stuff about him being their quote-unquote papa is just funny to me, because obviously the truth is more of a collaborative storytelling is just like that. Oh, and also what I was going to say earlier is that your comment made me really think about how much storytelling is possible just in pure game design and in non-traditional forms of narrative. Mario Revelation number 10. For pretty much all its life, the Mario series has been more about storytelling via gameplay and mechanics than it has been about more traditional forms of narrative. Not exclusively, mind you, as the RPGs and others are evident of, but for the most part, because it's clear there was a ton of storytelling going on, even in these Game & Watch games,
Yeah.
And part of it is in context with the other stuff here. It would make less sense if, for example, if this Mario's Cement Factory didn't have Safari and Cookie sandwiching it.
Surrounding it, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is telling a story, it's just not in the traditional form,
Yeah, and I think it's always really interesting whenever we're having a conversation on Marioverse about canon or whatever, and people are always like, oh, but Mario Kart shouldn't be canon. Mario Kart is no story. And I get where they're coming from, absolutely. It doesn't really, it's not a story in the same way that Super Mario Bros. Is a story, or Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga is a story, but it still is a story in the sense that it is telling events that occurred in a fictional universe.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think people don't give Mario Kart enough credit. Mario Kart does so much for the world building.
That's something that I also
Mario Kart
really internalized when I was reading the timeline here, because it just, it absolutely does so much.
Yeah, it's crazy because there's so many characters and locations and even things like brands in Mario Kart that add such depth to the universe, and fill in these little timeline gaps and elaborate on where things went and how things happened. And it's really funny. Dry Desert from Mario Kart Double Dash came back in Mario Kart 8, and when they came back, they changed the surrounding ruins and statues to be Hammer Bros. And then so that was I guess there's a Hammer Bros Koopa settlement in Dry Desert, which itself connects back to Paper Mario. This is pulling from the Ancient Kingdoms post that I made with Sophie that I mentioned earlier. But the Hammer Bros had this kingdom, and then Mario Tennis Aces comes out a few years later.
Right.
And again, the Hammer Bros kingdom appears, and it's expanded upon. We learn it's called the Kingdom of Basque, and they were really tennis obsessed, and they found a mystical tennis racket, and they led to the downfall of the kingdom. And to summarize, and then Mario Kart Tour just came out with Dry Ruins for Mario Kart Wii. And they've updated all of the statues there, and they're the same Hammer Bros statues. They're matching the Basque ones, it's all, there's a lot of thought and detail that goes into this, I think. They could have just made the statues anything, but the fact that they went back and remodeled them so that they were the same as the ones that were already in Mario Kart 8 and Mario Tennis Aces, that's just an extra level of commitment to the world building, I think.
That's actually the perfect example, because that's an example of them going literally above and beyond, but not in a traditional way. Just because every game game isn't an RPG doesn't mean that there's not story being told there. It's just being told in a different and like more subtle and nuanced way, for sure. If you look at it like that, it's actually a lot more like elevated in a way, because you have to you have to look and pay attention.
It's all in the small details.
Yeah.
It's not like there's long pages of lore blurbs and essays stuck into the games. And sometimes they do have little things like that, but they're always grounded.
Yeah.
In the sense that when you look at Super Mario Galaxy, has a lot of lore packed into Rosalina's story.
Right.
But again, that's like an in-universe story that Rosalina is telling to Mario.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the context of that. And in Super Mario Odyssey, so much lore in the brochures. And a lot of people just miss it, which is really funny. So much was put into that. But again, they're in-universe brochures that Mario gets from the Crazy Cap stores. Like, they contextualize it in a way that it makes sense for Mario to be learning about this stuff, you know? And everything else before that came from character dialogue or, again, just the visual storytelling. So it's super interesting the way that they tell Mario stories. I don't think there's much else like that out there.
No, I don't think so, even by a long shot. It's kind of incredible. And just the way that you characterized it right there, and then also in your comment, it really opened my eyes to that. And I wonder why, like, do you have any theories as to why people, like, miss that? Like, why do you think I went so long not really internalizing that? Is it just because I'm not paying close attention enough?
I don't think so. I think people are... I think people come into Mario with the sort of assumption that it has no canon, because there's like three main arguments I think that people make that I come across. Number one is that Mario is made for kids, and so they didn't have like a connected universe in mind. And to that, I think that's a little ridiculous, because like lots of things that are quote unquote made for kids have like rich world building and narratives, and some of the most popular cartoons of the last decade are made for kids but enjoyed by everyone. You know, like people analyze them and put theories about what's going to happen next. You know, it's not just for kids. And like Nintendo envisions Mario as being for everyone. And I know that's like, people will be like, yeah, but that just means for kids. But it's really not.
Absolutely.
Because I think there's an anecdote. Shigeru Miyamoto, like in the 90s, was so sick of people saying that Mario was for kids that he started making subtle changes to the character. Like, he banned Mario using the peace sign. Mario, since like the Lost Levels up until like Mario 64, was always using the peace sign, like when he would get a star or whenever there was a victory or whatever. And then after that point, he stopped. And that's because Miyamoto thought it was too childish for Mario to make a peace sign, which
for
is so
Mario to espouse peace. Like, interesting.
Finally brought it back in Odyssey. I think Odyssey is the first game in like 2 decades for Mario to use a peace sign in, which is hilarious to me, but also it's kind of nice.
Yeah,
it's come back.
That's another really subtle reason why that game is so nostalgic. I mean, obviously it's making callbacks upon callbacks with the outfits and just everything, but
I think to me, Mario Odyssey was when I began to really notice that there was more to it, you know, because like when I was younger, I thought everything was canon. I thought that the Super Mario Bros. Super Show was canon. I thought that King Koopa in the Super Show was Bowser's father.
Right.
No, that's nonsense. But I later on then I was like, okay, I still think that some of these things are like, it took me a long time to kind of understand which things fit in and which things didn't. And eventually I just kind of realized that, okay, all of the things that work and are consistent with each other are all of the things that Nintendo has published, all the things that Nintendo themselves have had their fingers in, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that makes all the difference, because if you look at the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, you look at the staff, not a single member of Nintendo staff. You look at Hotel Mario, not a single member of Nintendo staff. You look at Mario is Missing, not a single member of Nintendo staff. Like, if you look at Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, Shigeru Miyamoto was a producer.
Right.
You know, that's the difference, I think. And like, there's these people that they have that they bring onto games to keep things consistent with the overall world. They have an actual team for that.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Mario Revelation number 11. It's generally safe to assume that if Nintendo and therefore their canon checking staff members had no hand in the Mario game / media, it shouldn't be considered canon. Do you know what they call that team?
I actually don't know, because they go by different names on different games.
Yeah, they don't have like a dedicated... Because I remember in the credits for that Sonic Murder Mystery thing, I saw, and I think it was probably in Frontiers 2 and like some recent Sonic games, I've seen like Director of Lore credits. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but like there are some people at Sega whose job it is to keep the Sonic lore consistent, probably in not quite negotiation, but, you know, conversation with Sega higher-ups, because I know that they've made some decisions mentioned, or it's been theorized that they've vetoed some things. But it doesn't seem like if that is at Nintendo, that's maybe not like one dedicated.
It's certainly not what they would call an IP team, which keeps things kind of in order. But it is like, I think that when you look at different projects that they do outside of the core Nintendo companies like EAD, EPD, whatever, if you look at like say Next Level Games or Intelligent Systems or Alpha Dream, rest in peace.
Yes, truly.
You always see that they assign somebody from Nintendo to the project, and then they have Nintendo staff, and there's a constant communication between the companies on how to handle the game and what decisions they're going to make. I think Kensuke Tanabe is on, he worked on like Luigi's Mansion 3, and he's involved with the modern Paper Marios, and then like that applies to Zelda as well. I think he was he on the Link's Awakening remake, which was done by Grezzo? Something
I
like
think
that.
so.
I could be wrong there, but I think I heard that. So like, I think that there is just that level of communication and attention to detail and consistency that they do put in, because of course they want their characters to be the same across their appearances. But yeah, back to what I was saying, I think the other reasons why people just assume Mario doesn't have continuity or canon is just they think Mario lore is contradictory.
Right.
And I think that itself stems from Mario being such a big thing.
Yeah.
You know, like they just think there's too much that it couldn't possibly be quite consistent. Or they do things like the Super Show, which, you know, going back to what I was saying, obviously then there's going to be contradictions.
Right.
Because Nintendo themselves were barely involved. And I think people point to like Bowser in Mario spin-offs and go, oh, he would never play sports with Mario. That doesn't make any sense. But like Bowser is very explicitly evil in the sports games.
Yeah.
Everything he does is really in character with how he's characterized in the RPGs and even the main series. I think people miss that Mario comforts Bowser when they're both heartbroken at the end of Super Mario Odyssey. Mario helps Bowser turn back to normal in Bowser's Fury. He has no obligation to do that. But Mario is just a really nice guy. Something I've said for a few years now is that Mario would probably see Bowser as his worst friend rather than his greatest enemy.
Yeah, worst friend.
And I feel like Bowser would disagree with that.
Oh yeah, I mean Bowser.
But Bowser's also a petty man-child who wants to beat Mario at literally anything he possibly can. If you gave Bowser the opportunity to kill Mario, or sorry, not kill Mario, but maybe like, you know, to pulverize Mario and then gloat and do a Fortnite victory dance on top of him, I feel like Bowser would love that, but he'd get equal gratification from beating Mario in a tennis match and getting to hold the trophy over Mario's head and be like, yeah, well, you know, look at me, I'm better than you, Mario. Like, I think Bowser is just, he's that petty, he's that childish.
It's a pissing contest. It's a constant pissing contest.
It really is. It really is for him. Bowser's such an he's like my favorite character, I think. He's so interesting. He's got a great story, great motivations. And he's just super well characterized in the game. I feel like in that he's got like equal parts evil and goofy. Like he's not somebody that you can mess with and get away with that.
Yeah.
But also it's really, there's parts where you just can't take him seriously because he is childish and goofy and fun. And then he's got like, yeah, he's evil. He tries to take over the universe, but he's also really good to his people.
Yeah.
At least in the best way he can be for how he was raised.
Yeah, in the way that his pride will allow him to be.
Yeah, exactly.
His ego.
And I think that's why like his minions don't fear him. They adore him. They literally would jump into a bottomless pit for him because they just think he's that cool and he's that good to them. And that's like, it's such an interesting relationship. The newer RPGs have had such a focus on Bowser and the minions and their relationship, and I love that. Minion Quest.
Yes, Minion Quest.
Bowser Jr.'s Journey. Even like Paper Mario the Origami King, Chapter 5, the entire Shangri Spa section. Like it's completely minion focused, and I love that. I love the way they interact with each other and with Mario and with Bowser. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's really cute.
I'd kill for more of that.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's interesting in the games, at least how I've characterized it on my timeline, is that Bowser goes through like phases of his army being like a little bit weaker and then like building it back up,
which is
especially
realistic.
early on. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense from a narrative point of view, but I think it's funny how the games align in that way, even if it wasn't intentional, in that in some games he seems to have less resources after previous large invasions where he was doing quite well for himself.
I also like how that can justify like re-releases of the games. Another wild thing about this timeline in is that Super Mario Bros. Deluxe is on here, and like the Lost Levels are on here. And what is this one? Is this what system was this for?
That is the Game & Watch Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, so like the fucking Game & Watch Super Mario Brothers is on here, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I like, that's sound logic to me to justify their being on the timeline.
The reason why that one goes last for me is because he doesn't transform the Toads. He doesn't, like, he only kidnaps Peach. And all of the minions that he has left, at least according to what the game shows us, are Lakitus, who don't even throw Spinies, they throw hammers.
Oh.
And Bullet Bills. I'm pretty sure those are the only two enemies in the game. And to me, like, he has Bullet Bills left over, so he's using those. And he has Lakitus because Lakitus are probably in abundance because Mario doesn't kill them that easily in Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels.
Yeah, they have survivability.
Maybe all the Hammer Bros have been defeated, and so have all the Spinies. So he just gave the Lakitus the Hammer Bros hammers and started getting them to throw them down at Mario. I love the idea of that.
Yeah, he's scrambling and using what he has. He's a man-child with a whole army and like territories throughout. I also find it interesting, this is a tangent, but I find it really interesting how in this timeline we see Mario become like a property owner, and that's just so interesting to me for Mario, who's like such a working class kind of guy. I like that the movie is kind of seeming to capitalize on that a little bit.
Yeah.
But like in Mario Party, Mario wins it and it is named Mario Land, which, you know, it is. And then you put Mario Land here. It's like, that's kind of brilliant.
Yeah,
truly.
That's a fun one.
Yeah.
I love that whole like kind of arc that I've sort of made there. That's one of my favorite parts. And then he comes back from Mario Land, and then he arrives back to the Mushroom Kingdom of Wrecking Crew 98. That game opens with Mario returning home from another country, and we don't know where he was within the game itself, but he returns home, and Bowser, in the time he was gone, has built skyscrapers everywhere, and Mario arrives back and is like, okay, the skyscrapers are killing all of the wildlife, and so he goes back to his house from Mario RPG, it's the same house, and he opens up his little chest under his bed, and he pulls out his hammer from Wrecking Crew, and so he just goes around the Mushroom Kingdom destroying all these buildings, and Foreman Spike is there, and he's like, remember me? Yeah. I'm your original rival from the Wrecking Crew. And he's like, if you can beat me another 2 minutes, I'll tell you the location of a secret base. And then Mario beats him. Like, he has a little meltdown, but then he calms down, and he's like, that was the most fun I've had in a long time. Foreman Spike himself has like a great arc, I think. For such a minor character. He's an asshole in Wrecking Crew. He's an asshole in Wrecking Crew 98, but realizes that he has like a respect for Mario. Right. And then he like disappears for ages, and then he comes back in Mobile Golf, and he's gotten like old and fat, but he's also become nicer according to the manual. And so he just goes golfing with Mario.
Yeah, like, he's like, I see you as a colleague, as an equal, a working class equal. Yeah, that's another reason why I'm really excited that he's in the movie, because it's just like, oh, they could put that at a narrative forefront that is more traditional, you know?
I'm super excited to see him in the movie, but I'm also worried beyond belief because Foreman Spike in the games he doesn't have much artwork.
We then proceeded to speculate about the Mario movie for like 5 more minutes. We pick up at another moment that I'm praising the timeline. Why do I sound like this? What's this voice?
There's so many little eye-opening moments like that, and I don't even have to, like, I did kind of go back and cross-reference some of these things just because I was like, not even because I doubted you or anything, it's just because I was like, oh, there are some things that my brain cannot recall an image of, you know? Like, Mario's house being the same as it is in Mario RPG, like, Mario RPG is one of my favorite games. I don't think I've played Wrecking Crew 98.
Most people haven't.
Yeah, no, most people haven't, and I think if I have played it, it was probably on an emulator or something.
Yeah.
But like, so I went back and checked that, and I was like, yeah, that's absolutely true. Same thing in your original comment. You had mentioned Peach using levitation powers in the Mario Tennis trophy animations, and I was like, I don't remember those at all. When was that? And then, yeah, like, I went back, and she does right here. Yeah, look at that. It's like, wow. They've been planting this stuff for years. For literally always. To address something that we were saying, like, generally we can agree that Mario is a stand-up guy. How do you reconcile with him, like, being pretty mean to a gorilla back in the day? Do you think that that's indicative of character development? Because it seems like even though OG Donkey Kong antagonized him a fair bit, and you could see it as retaliatory, like, I don't know, it's hard for me to reconcile Mario locking Donkey Kong up and in like positioning Donkey Kong Jr. as the protagonist of that. You know, like how do you deal
So
with that?
the way I look at it is, if Donkey Kong was Wario, okay, and Wario comes to a construction site, grabs Mario's girlfriend and climbs up to the top, and then destroys the construction site and starts throwing barrels at innocent people, Wario would probably go to jail.
Yeah. So this is
Donkey
Gorilla
Kong-
Jail.
Donkey Kong is Cranky Kong, but he's also, I think he's really intelligent. You know, he's as intelligent as a human being. He fully knew what he was doing. He was literally, according to Shigeru Miyamoto, pranking Mario. Like, this was his idea of a funny thing to do just for the shits.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mario Revelation number 12. Donkey Kong really shouldn't have done that, man. Not cool.
And I think what's even funnier is when you look at Cranky Kong in the Donkey Kong Country games, he does the exact same thing that Mario did to him with no qualms. He locks an Espresso the ostrich in a cage and then forces it to like race for him in like illegal ostrich racing. That bird did nothing bad. That bird is completely innocent. And he raised it from a baby in a cage.
Damn. Justice for fucking...
and for Espresso. And then like he's claims like he'd never have gotten captured in his day when Donkey Kong gets captured in Country 2, when like literally he did.
Yeah.
You know, twice.
He's just an old man.
Yeah, it's I love Cranky Kong. He's such a funny character, but I think he just does things that are mean for fun. And I think he got what was coming to him. And I think that Mario was also in the wrong for kind of taking things into his own hands and locking Donkey Kong in a cage. But I think that Mario has learned from that, because if we look at the Mario versus Donkey Kong games, the modern Donkey Kong kidnaps 3 Toads and steals from Mario's business and destroys the factories and stuff. And Mario forgives him. Mario gives him one of the toys for free, and he forgives him for kidnapping the Toads, and they go on to become buddies. So I think that is growth for Mario.
Yeah.
I think Mario back then would have been in the mindset of, this person did something bad, they need to be locked up for the safety of others. I think now Mario is more, people can change and can be forgiven for what they've done.
Mario believes in restorative justice now.
Yeah, I think he does. I think that's fully the track he's gone on.
Mario is no longer an advocate for the carceral state, as evidenced by him no longer locking that gorilla up.
Lucky Mario Revelation number 13.
And Cranky has always been cranky, true to his namesake. He's not just cranky in age. It appears that he's always been a bit cranky, huh?
Always. I mean, I think it's funny that Cranky Kong and Mario were supposedly buddies, like before Donkey Kong happened. Again, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember, was it Miyamoto said it in an interview, or was it from a blurb that he worked on or something like that? But they were pals. They played hockey together in Donkey Kong Hockey. And then Donkey Kong just thought it would be hilarious to epically prank Mario this one day by kidnapping his girlfriend and throwing barrels at him. You know,
he took it too far.
And maybe that was like, maybe Cranky had some like deeper issues from his time in the circus, where Mario did. I believe that's where they met.
Yeah,
and where Mario went to this circus near the construction site.
Yeah, this was a really important game in this timeline.
Yeah, sees the show.
Truly,
sees Donkey Kong in it. Thinks he's hilarious when he gets like burned with flaming balls of fire. And then apparently Donkey Kong was Mario's pet as well, which morally not so sure how that works, because again, he's an intelligent being.
Yeah, but if they're as intelligent as a human, that's a...
But also, like, if you look at, say, Paper Mario Color Splash, there's a Toad who has a Koopa Paratroopa as a pet in a cage.
Oh.
So I feel like this sort of stuff happens pretty commonly in Mario's world, as weird as it is.
Mario Revelation number 14. Pets in this universe work weird.
And even if you look at like other pets in the series, like dogs and chain chomps, and
I was gonna mention chain chomps.
A lot of them are also intelligent.
Yeah,
you know, they speak in barks, but they're also pets. I think it's kind of just a cartoony, weird anthropomorphism logic thing.
Right.
But so Mario meets Donkey Kong at the circus. He buys him probably, and then they become buddies. And I think that it's interesting how that all plays out. And also, I feel like there's a lot of lore which to me indicates that Kongs used to be this really great, powerful civilization in the Metro Kingdom region of the planet.
Oh, interesting.
And that due to the rise of like humanity and the Kremlings and stuff, and then wars over territory surrounding that, the Kongs have been completely wiped out, aside from like the Kong family that we know in the games.
Right.
Mario Revelation number 16. The Great Kong War thing might hold some water, even though it originated as a fake thing, but not for the reasons you think.
And so, like, I think it's really interesting how the movie has this huge, powerful Kong civilization, which is, in my mind, how the Kongs used to be back in, like, thousands of years ago, and how it's completely different from the small Kong community that we know from the country games.
Right,
you know?
the DK crew. So the Kongs got colonized?
Yeah, there's a lot of evidence in the games to suggest that Kongs were taken from their homes and brought to other countries for entertainment and to be used as slaves or prisoners of war.
Mario Revelation number 17. The racial allegory there is not great. I know. I'm sorry.
And then there's all this like debris from like planes,
Right.
and there's army equipment and factories and stuff around the Kong archipelago.
Yes.
And a lot of that itself has like Metro Kingdom iconography, so like, you know, red girders and oil barrels and even the regular barrels that we see in the Donkey Kong games.
Yeah.
It's super interesting. And then like, of course, some Kongs, like Funky Kong, has used all this debris and all this tech that he's found to like make his own planes and stuff, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I just think it's kind of wild, the total difference. It's like if the movie's version of the Kong civilization is like, what if the Kongs had never been wiped out?
Right.
Or whatever, you know? Like, I'm not saying that it's definitive that the Kongs were wiped out or whatever, but there's a lot of like small little pieces of evidence that would suggest that the Kongs really had this vast, wealthy, powerful society. And now they live in, like, now there's like 12 of them. And they live in little shacks.
God. Yeah, in tree houses.
Yeah.
Man,
So,
that's dark. And you mentioned that also in one of your future comments that I was trying to find. Mario Revelation number 18. Mario has been to war. He's a veteran. A boot.
We know that Mario took part in a war and Mario's bombs away.
Yeah, which was also a huge eye-opening moment. I forgot that existed at all. And yeah, what does the Mario wiki say about Mario's bombs away? Yeah, Mario was a soldier, guys. These are the revelations that you can go to, even just on the Mario Wiki itself, but I think that the timeline does such a good job at distilling it into, obviously a linear format, but also, like, it makes you grapple with these ideas that, like, yes, Mario served military time. There he is.
I think it's funny because Mario in his sprites and in his artwork in this game looks probably more scared than we've ever seen him. Yeah. Which is why, in my mind, it makes so much sense for it to be so early on, and this is like where he sort of got his first proper adventure as an adult. You know, or I'm not going to call it an adventure because it really isn't.
War is hell.
It's a tragedy. But it's probably where he got some of his experience in fighting from, you know?
Do you think it was Vietnam? Mario Revelation number 19. Mario might have been in Vietnam.
I don't think it was Vietnam. No, I think that's...
Okay, Mario Revelation number 20. He wasn't in Vietnam.
There's nothing in the game that suggests that, aside from like, oh, it is a recent-ish war at the time of the game's release, and they're wearing green, which is like, green is like a common soldier color.
Yeah, that doesn't necessarily plant it in Vietnam.
Also, Vietnam doesn't exist on Mario's planet, so...
Yeah, well, that was the other thing I was going to say, is like, yeah, the Brooklyn retcon, it maybe wasn't like in place yet, but even so, I would call this more Vietnam-inspired than anything, and even that is tenuous because, yeah, again, pretty common cartoon soldier thing to wear green.
Yeah, I just think it's funny that like smoking exists in Mario's world, and we only know from like 3 places.
Yeah! Mario Revelation number 21. There are multiple canon sources that say that cigarettes exist in the Mario world. Heavy Smoker.
The Heavy Smoker in this game. There's an anti-smoking sign in the Bowser's Inside Story remake.
Oh.
In the Toadley Clinic. And also Dr. Crygor from WarioWare wrote a blog on why smoking is bad for you back in like 2003.
A blog? Where was the blog?
The WarioWare sites, the old ones, used to have all the characters write these little diaries or blogs.
Oh, that's
which
adorable.
like gave like context for the games and insights into their characters. And they're all canon. They're all on the Japanese websites, and they're all canon because they've been like acknowledged in the game since, which is so cool.
What the hell?
But yeah,
That's
one of them,
cool.
Dr. Crygor, talk about why smoking is bad for you. So
what a king, honestly. Like, wow, what a stand-up guy. He's Mario Revelation number 22. Dr. Crygor is a strong advocate against smoking. Yeah, he is a doctor. We forget that. Yeah, so he would have a stake in that. That's incredible. But the anti-smoking side was only in the Bowser's Inside Story remake, huh? Not in the original.
Yeah, original game, it was a sign with a Dr. Mario virus and a big X over it. I'm pretty sure.
Interesting.
And they replaced it in the remake with a cigarette and a big X over it.
I wonder why they would do such a thing.
I have no idea. Obviously, somebody on the Alpha Dream art team that year just wanted to put in some anti-smoking.
Yeah, they had a real position on it.
Like, we can make a change. We can make a change with the worst selling Mario game since the Virtual Boy.
Yeah. God, I love that game so much.
Yeah.
I had initially intended to go through the comment, but then I just started talking about the timeline and its various intricacies. But yes, definitely the takeaway from this section and the takeaway from this video in general is go read the timeline, because if you look at it like this, I'm not even necessarily saying that this is the definitive only way to interpret the events of games.
And it's not. I as the person who wrote it, it is not the only way to interpret the events. It is a way. Some places are quite definitive, and I think it's clear from the descriptions which ones are definitive and which ones they have a little leeway with.
Yes, absolutely. I totally agree, and I think it's written that way very intentionally and very thoughtfully, which I appreciate. But yeah, I do think it is fair to say that if you read the events of the games in this order, if you read this timeline and consider it to be true, it is revelatory in a lot of ways. Because again, like I mentioned, there are just these little like brain blast moments. The Mario Party e-reader game is in the timeline, okay? That's all you need to know. You'll never guess where Super Mario Brothers 2 is on this timeline. I'll give you a hint. It's not after 1 and before 3.
Actually, it's funny you bring that up. Another argument that just been reminded of is that the Super Mario Wiki does not consider Mario to have a canon.
Yes.
And in one sense, of course, I completely get why, because, you know, Mario doesn't... If you're making a wiki and you're covering the real-life franchise of Mario and all of its related media, then, of course, you do not need any focus on the canonicity of games. It's counterintuitive to what you're doing. And I think that it's an issue that Zelda Wiki and other wikis have, is that they focus too much on canon and not enough on all the weird side tangents and merchandise and stuff that exists, you know? And I love Mario Wiki. I think it's probably one of the best fan wikis in existence. But a lot of people then will go to this page or just Google, does Mario have a canon? And then this will be the first result. And they'll say, well, look, Mario Wiki says Mario has no canon, therefore it doesn't have a canon. And I don't get that, because it's a fan wiki and they have a specific, good, valid reason for not considering any canon. You know, that it makes sense. The other big argument that people always pull is, like, this is what they think is the smoking gun. Apparently Shigeru Miyamoto said that Mario characters are actors. So every game is a play or movie with no continuity, like Mickey Mouse. And my response to that is that Shigeru Miyamoto never said that. And like certainly not in that way in response to a question of does Mario have a canon or not. You know, that one mostly spread due to, I think it was a Polygon article which had a clickbait headline from like a decade ago. And people just read the headline, didn't investigate further. It's a common fan theory as well. But if you read the actual article and what he said, he isn't talking about the lore of the games. He doesn't say they are actors. He said to a certain degree, he sees the characters like one big family or maybe a troupe of actors. It's a simile.
It's a like, not a is.
And I think it's about like the flexibility of the IP. Like Kenta Motakura said during the development of Super Mario Odyssey, it was something like, if you think it's fun to do, then it's within the realm of possibility. The Mario IP is so strong that you can take Mario or a Mario franchise character and put them in pretty much any situation and it makes it okay. Like if the Mario characters are so strong that they carry off any scenario. And I think that's very true, because Mario fits into RPGs and sports games and adventure titles and puzzle games. And I think that that's what Miyamoto was talking about there, in that they're like, it's like a family of characters. It's like they're actors in that as an IP, they fit into all these different games. He's not literally saying, yes, in the lore, in the canon, they are all actors and none of the adventures are real, because nothing actually indicates that. If you look at the original Game Informer interview, Miyamoto doesn't say the cast are actors. He doesn't say the Koopalings are Bowser's adopted kids. He says the Koopalings are not Bowser's kids at all, which adopted kids, to be clear, are your kids. Okay?
Yes,
adopted
this is
kids
true.
are just as much your kids as any other kids. Yeah, so Bowser Jr. is Bowser's only child. We do not know who the mother is. That is one of 2 retcons in the entire series. So that is, people often point to that as an inconsistency, but in my mind, they wouldn't have clarified that if it was a proper inconsistency.
Like it is, a retcon is not an inconsistent, like it may be addressing something that was an inconsistency, but the purpose of a retcon is to rectify an inconsistency.
Exactly. And I feel like it makes so much more sense now. Like I loved it when the Koopalings are Bowser's kids, but in terms of Bowser being like the same age as Mario, having 8 kids seems a little unrealistic.
You know?
And also Bowser doesn't have a partner or anything. Bowser is Zelda. Yeah, so I don't think when he says he's Bowser Jr.'s mother, he means as in I created the real life character Bowser. You know, I'm the real life creator of Bowser Jr.
Yes, this is what a normal person would think.
In universe, universe, as he said in the Kooplings quote, we do not know who the mother is.
Right.
My personal belief is that he does not have a mother at all in universe. And it's sort of like a headcanon-y theory of mine that Bowser, of course, he's like 24-ish, 25 at the beginning of the series. He is probably single. Like, I don't think he's mature enough to have ever like actually dated someone.
Yeah, like we all know that Bowser can get it, but like, can he emotionally get it, you know?
Yeah, he's emotionally immature. He's a man-child. The way that he's like head over heels for Princess Peach and nobody else is also like quite telling.
Pretty unhealthy. Yeah.
But it's also like, I don't think that he would get with anyone else.
No.
If he had the opportunity. So then, well, where did Bowser Jr. come from? Who's his mother? And yeah, I don't think he has one. I think that we know the stars grant the wishes for kids, and that's how the babies appear in the stork world. And then they get delivered,
I almost
right?
forgot about that, even though we were just talking about it.
We're just talking about it.
Yeah, conception works completely differently in the Mario universe.
Yeah.
So Bowser just really wanted a kid.
Yeah, so
Mario Revelation number 23. Because of what we established about conception in the Mario universe, Bowser Jr. was born by pure force of will, and also star magic and storks.
my thinking is that Bowser, we also know from Paper Mario and Super Mario RPG, that Bowser's wishes never get granted by the stars because he's selfish and they have literally blacklisted him. And that's why he steals a Star Rod in Paper Mario. My theory, headcanon thing, is that during Paper Mario, he stole the Star Rod, he took it back to his castle, and off screen at some point during the game, he made a wish for a son. And then Mario defeats and Star Rod gets taken away, his castle blows up, whatever. But cut to some time later, Bowser is chilling at home, and a stork arrives at the door. Boom, baby.
There he is.
But the reason why... See, Bowser, of course, doesn't have a partner. He wished for a son on his own.
Right.
And that's why Bowser Jr. looks identical to baby Bowser. Because he's literally... He had no other genes to pull from. He is a genetic clone of Bowser.
Yeah. Straight up.
And that's how he has a son. That's why come Super Mario Sunshine, everyone's like, whoa, Bowser has a son? How did that happen?
So Dr. Mario is not the homunculus. Bowser Jr. is the homunculus.
Bowser Jr. is the homunculus. Yes.
Okay. No, this, again, it tracks completely and utterly.
There's no real evidence, but I think it fits rather nicely.
Yeah,
so
it does.
I like to headcanon it.
And I think fitting rather nicely is a good way of describing collaborative storytelling in general, but also specifically what they've been doing. The only retcons are the things that have been irreconcilable.
Actually, that you just reminded me, self-fulfilling prophecy of Yoshi's Island. Kamek foresees that they will cause terror or something to befall the Koopa family. I think that's how it's described.
Right, yeah.
Kamek kidnaps the baby Mario Bros. Because he wants to stop them from becoming the heroes in the future. Obviously, then they grow up and then they, at some point, move to New Donk City. And it's my belief that the only reason why Mario and Luigi ended up back in the Mushroom Kingdom is because Bowser, knowing of the prophecy that Kamek had seen, decided to send his minions, the Koopa Troopas and the Fighterflies and the Spinies and the Sidesteppers, to the New Donk sewers to fight Mario and Luigi to stop them from ever making it to the Mushroom Kingdom and foiling his plan. But inadvertently, he led them directly back to the Mushroom Kingdom, causing them to stop him, which is, he fulfilled the prophecy that he was trying to avoid.
Oh my god. Which is such a Bowser thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Mario Revelation number 24. See, there must be a timeline because some time travel shit happened.
Oh my god. No, that,
Misconception number 3. I said that the existence of baby Rosalina was temporally impossible, since her abilities, connection to the Lumas, and wand from Mario Kart 8 Tour and Dr. Mario World seemed to contradict her backstory as depicted in Super Mario Galaxy, where she met the Lumas and became magical in adolescence rather than infancy. Sean's conclusion, Rosalina would probably have powers as a child because the current canon suggests she's royalty, and princesses in the Mario world seem to be trained in magic and or have magical abilities at infancy. Also, regular baby Rosalina never even had the wand. That was a fan render that the people behind Dr. Mario World and Mario Kart Tour thought was official, and that's why they gave her alternate forms props based on the wand. We discussed that here.
I don't know why I thought Rosalina was the one, or actually no, I do know why I thought Rosalina was the one who remade the universe. It's because she appears like super big and everything.
Yeah.
But she's just the liaison, but she even mentions the baby stars, so I don't know why. I think I was just going off the image more than I I was going off the text.
Yeah, I think you're not the only one.
Uh-huh.
Like, everyone thinks that Rosalina is the one who reset the universe, and
Yeah.
that she's often called a goddess,
Right.
or like the god of the Mario universe, the creator of the Mario universe. But like, that's just not true.
Right.
You know, they make it pretty clear in the text in both like this game and in other games like the Paper Mario games and stuff that the stars are the gods. The stars are the ones who are worshipped.
Right.
Rosalina is like a messenger for the stars. She's obviously like someone who raises baby stars, but
Right.
then like she's not the only one who does that. Like Merle from Paper Mario also raises stars.
Yes.
In Starborn Valley.
When you brought up this really blew my mind to the moon. This is insane, because truly, this is a bit character from Mario Party 3. And yeah, I guess she is a Toad, huh? Or
Sort of.
Toad-like?
Maybe. He's certainly Toad-like.
Oh yeah, wait, I can see it there. I don't see it there as much.
No,
Like that
yeah.
that just looks like a head wrap of some kind.
Yeah.
But she's got fucking Rosalina's exact one.
Which is, yeah, and it's really funny. In Japanese, the Mushroom Genie is called the Mushroom Witch. And in Super Mario Galaxy, Hint Toad, when he first meets Rosalina, suspects that she's a witch.
Oh my god.
And in Mario Kart Tour, Rosalina dresses up as a witch during the Halloween event.
Oh my
So,
god. So
I
she's
mean-
just Rosalina's just a wizard. Mario Revelation number 25. Rosalina is a witch. Also, the definition of witch and wizard in the Mario universe is pretty broad. Also, princesses might technically all be witches and wizards. You know, it's a little bit like in the Owl House. Geez, that self-fulfilling prophecy thing we were talking about is also kind of like the Owl House, huh? Mario and the Owl House are the same.
Basically, yeah. And I mean, it fits exactly in with, you know, her little compass star
Right.
emblem? That is, and like even her regular star emblem, those are both emblems used by the shamans in Super Paper Mario.
Right.
Like the ancients, who themselves, of course, have like a really strong connection to the stars. They built the Crystal Palace, which was made to honor the stars.
Right.
They use the stars for like interdimensional travel and for reading the future, you know, and then that might connect to the Thousand Year Doors civilization as well.
Yeah.
Because Count Bleck has like a magical ring that he generates when he's using magic, and that's the same symbol that can be seen on the floor in front of the Thousand Year Door in that game. And that civilization, when they summoned the Shadow Queen, they dragged the power from the stars into the stones, into the crystal stars, which he uses. So like there's all these connections between the civilizations and stuff, and the stars and the magicians of Mario's world.
Mario Revelation number 26. The symbology of the Mario world is actually a lot more consistent and robust than I ever could have imagined.
I love the Star Lord. The Star Lord is like the most interesting part of Mario as a whole.
It goes
I'd love to do a whole,
way
like-
harder than I ever gave it credit for. like
I'd love to
even
do
for
a whole
second.
deep dive into it.
Yeah, you definitely should. Like, that's a video in and of itself. I mean, really, all of these things are videos in and of themselves. So,
Yeah.
by stars, how do we reconcile moons and shine sprites and stuff like that? Because, like, the thing that I thought since Odyssey, at least, is, oh, these are just power stars, but in separate forms.
Yep, you're 100% right.
Okay.
They're power stars in different shapes.
Right.
And I have like a whole theory text. Here it is.
Oh, look at
Works.
that. I see. Okay.
I have all the evidence compiled and everything, but basically they're all power sources. They're, you know, all based on celestial bodies. And then there's a lot of evidence in the games that hints at connections between them and characters acknowledging the similarities, but the fact they just have different shapes.
Oh, yeah, Cappy does literally say that, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
And Toadsworth says something similar in Sunshine. He's
Yeah.
like, when he sees a shine sprite for the first time, he's like, that bright object, it's not a star. What could it be? So yeah, it's very interesting stuff. And then cat shines in Bowser's Fury are also
Yeah.
probably the same things. Obviously, they look a lot different, but I think that they're probably just the same thing in a different shape again, because they're like identical to shine sprites in
There's
every
some
way
cat
but
lore
appearance.
going on in that game. I don't really understand. Are they trying to set up like another ancient civilization or something? Where do you think the cat dimension, like, do you think it's another dimension? What is it?
It's the same dimension as Mario's home dimension. It's just
Mario Revelation number 27. Bowser's Fury took place on the same planet as the rest of most of the Mario games. I was probably the only person wondering about this.
because, okay, so Bowser and Bowser Jr., according to Bowser Jr.'s dialogue and the end credits paintings that he makes,
Yeah.
they flew from the Koopa Kingdom, presumably, to Lake Lapat for a nice day by the beach, according to Bowser Jr., but it's pretty clear that they were going to invade the kingdom.
Right.
Because all of the minions were there
Yes.
and all of the airships were there. Bowser fell asleep on the ship on the way there. Bowser Jr., for some reason, decides to paint him with his paintbrush, probably just like a prank, or because he was bored, or because his dad wouldn't wake up, or, you know, it's not made explicitly clear, but
Pranks
Bowser Jr. looks
really
kind of
have disastrous consequences in the Mario universe.
Yeah,
no
they
one
seem
should
to.
ever do pranks.
Basically, Bowser Jr. paints his dad with black paint, and as we know from Paper Mario Color Splash, black paint tends to possess people, and Bowser transforms into Fury Bowser and grows super super huge and destroys the fleet of airships, which is why we see them destroyed at the lake when Mario arrives.
Right.
And all of the minions get scattered all over the lake, and Bowser Jr. tries to get Bowser back to normal, but he can't. So he thinks, well, who's a hero who helps people in need? And then he is like, oh yeah, Mario. So he uses Paintbrush again to create a portal back to the Mushroom Kingdom, like he does in around Delfino in Sunshine. And that's where Mario finds the little Shadow Mario emblem at the beginning of the game and gets sucked through the portal to the lake. But yeah, it is on the same planet. It's just another kingdom like any of the Odyssey kingdoms.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's same for the Sprixie Kingdom in 3D World. A lot of people think that's another dimension as well, but that's the same planet.
Yeah, no, that's the same place. I was always kind of on that team with the Sprixie Kingdom, but I think it's just a little bit less clear, like how exactly
from the get-go and
getting there. Yeah,
in Bowser's Fury, it's because like if you didn't, because like a lot of people miss the credits paintings.
Yeah,
and even like the context of the airships being crashed around the lakes.
Right.
But yeah, they flew there.
Mario Revelation number 28. The princesses are wizards thing almost certainly applies to Peach as well because of her levitation powers that she appears to have. As evidenced to me by, in most of the games in which she's playable, she can float. But also, in the goddamn Mario Tennis 64 victory animation, she levitates a trophy. It's been there all along, you guys. It's been there all along!
A lot of people think that Peach floats using her dress, somehow, like as if the wind propels her, I guess. But no, like in games where she isn't wearing a dress, she can still float around.
Yeah.
Even in 3D World, when she gets the boomerang flower, she has like a jumpsuit instead of a dress.
Yeah.
And she floats the exact same way.
Exactly.
So,
I feel really egregious about those baby Rosalina renders being fan art because I legitimately just did not know. This is why we always check the wiki.
yeah.
And also, we talked a little bit in the comments about this, but like the idea of official Nintendo people using fan renders as reference,
Yeah.
and then that kind of bleeding in, that's just fascinating as an idea to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Dr. Mario World renders, different colored shoes and a different colored pacifier. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, which is just really funny to me.
Yeah. I hope somebody's fired for this blunder. No, don't fire anyone who worked on Dr. Mario World. Dr. Mario World was cool.
Yeah, I really like Dr. Mario World.
Yeah, I'm sad that it's not there anymore. I feel like they could keep
I feel like
that
they
up.
could port it to Switch or something.
Yeah, port it to
Or-
Switch.
yeah.
Dude.
Very different Dr. Mario game, but I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. The rest of the interview that I've chosen to include in this video are Sean and I circling back around to summarize our points, talking more about his original comment, collaborative storytelling, and also Adventure Time for reasons that are related, I promise. Also, we go over some of the People's Mario poll responses that you guys submitted. This was a 3-hour, 45-minute conversation that I've cut up and rearranged for the purposes of this video. If you want to hear the whole conversation in the sort of circular order we had it, completely uncut, check the description. I should definitely put some kind of brainworm warning on that thing, though. I'm pretty sure listening to it the whole way through and actually understanding anything we mean is indicative of some deep psychological damage. Get help. We're trying to. This, and I mean this, gestures widely to the whole video you're watching, is the deranged way in which I cope now, apparently. Anyway, here it is.
I was going to talk about Tropical Freeze and how cool the Easter eggs are in that game, because basically the fifth island, Juicy Jungle, that's where Stanley from Donkey Kong 3 lives, or lived previously, because now it's all in disrepair and all the wildlife has taken over the island. So you're like, what happened to Stanley? Did he die? Did he get eaten by a man-eating plant or something? The factory is still running, but like it's just a small Easter egg, but you can see the greenhouse from Donkey Kong 3 in the background of one of the levels. And like that just adds so much depth to Donkey Kong 3 and who Stanley is as a character. And even for the timeline, like the reason why Donkey Kong 3 takes place where it does is because Juicy Jungle is the nearest island to Donkey Kong Island in the Kong archipelago.
Right.
So it makes sense that when Donkey Kong leaves the Metro Kingdom, that he would end up on Stanley's Island before he actually got home.
Right.
And that's why that order of events is the way it is.
Like, we're all focused on Donkey Kong Jr. and where he's at. Where is Stanley?
Where
is
Stanley?
he okay?
Yeah, I hope he moved like to the mainland or something and that he didn't just get eaten off screen and died years ago. But you know, both are equally valid possibilities.
Yeah, I
at
mean,
the moment.
honestly,
so much fun.
Here's my theory for Stanley. He did move to the mainland, but he became like a Tarzan. Like, he became a George of the Jungle for the Kongs. So he's just like a wild man in their midst. And he will be the, I guess, fifth playable character in the next Donkey Kong Country game.
That would be really cool, actually. To be
Stanley
honest.
the Wild Man instead of Stanley the Wild Man.
I'd love if a Donkey Kong world was like set in New Donk City or something. Because last time they did that was Donkey Kong Land, which was super cool, but it's also on the Game Boy and not a very solid game in terms of gameplay because it wasn't well adapted. But like, I would absolutely adore to see the Kongs climbing around city streets and, all that stuff. Super cool to imagine. Yeah, and also on that same island where we see Stanley's greenhouse is one of Bowser's tanks from Super Mario Bros. 3.
Right.
So you're like, did Bowser invade this region?
Yeah, or at least the detritus from some other invasion washed up or something like that. But yeah, no, I mean, it seems plausible that he maybe did.
Yeah.
Bowser killed Stanley in cold blood. Him personally. Probably like a bomb or something. But still,
yeah.
Where's Stanley?
Where is he? That's the age-old question.
Hashtag where's Stanley?
Where's Stanley?
This is also sort of a tangent, but have you watched Adventure Time?
I have. I'm such a huge Adventure Time fan.
Me too.
Adventure Time is up there with Mario for me.
Yeah. No, me too, legitimately. I'm making
second favorite.
Yeah.
Maybe even favorite fictional universe.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I'm making a video about it right now. And I'm noticing a lot of similarities in terms of Adventure Time has this, and always has had this energy of this kind of meandering canon, but it has an immaculate memory. It always
absolutely.
It always makes things work in a way that feels like they were kind of making it up as they go along, but also like some of these things were planted so far in advance that it's like, okay, well,
but they were absolutely like,
yeah.
Like go back to season 1, they had not planned all of this out. But it works so well, and I feel like, crossover. They go to Farm World again, and then they have to kill the Jake Lich.
Yeah,
right. And I love at the end of the episode, Prismo uses his powers to like get rid of the ice crown from the Farm World reality. And he puts it on the dead Ice King's head in the past.
Yeah, and that was an animation error. Yeah.
And they've justified in universe. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was like, I was like, oh my god, the attention to detail, so funny.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Jesse Moynihan, but that seems like a Jesse Moynihan decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely nuts. That's one of the wildest things they've ever done, I think. Incredible. And you think about the Mario games, and it's like, I don't think they have as much opportunity to do that. And it's also over a much longer time scale. Like Adventure Time only
40 plus years.
Right. Like I guess Adventure Time has the canon thousands of years, and then like when Evergreen is established, that's like prehistoric times compared to Mushroom War times. So it's like they I guess have the benefit of a at least somewhat clear internal timeline, but they don't have the benefit, or I guess maybe the opposite of the benefit, of having a long time to actually develop that out in the real world, because Mario has been around for so much longer.
Yeah, and I've always seen similarities between Adventure Time and Mario in that sort of way that they work. And I think that Mario also has that memory, in that like, okay, Adventure Time, they brought back Nepter and the ancient psychic Tandemore elephant like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like that was probably just somebody went back and watched an old episode and went, oh yeah, what happened to that character?
Yeah.
Let's just stick him in somewhere. But I think that happens in Mario as well. Like going back to the Koopalings, were gone for years in the main series and less long in the spin-offs, but still a long time. And they brought them back for New Super Mario Bros. Wii. Pauline, not gone, because she was in the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, but again, like
soft gone.
Wasn't really relevant.
Yeah.
Not really relevant since like Donkey Kong Game Boy or even the original, arguably. And she came back in such a strong way in Odyssey.
Right. In a way that was like inexorable from that game. Like so important.
Yeah.
The Koopalings are the ancient psychic Tandemore elephant.
Yeah. And even like the cut little cloud chompy thing in Super Mario Maker, like the stiletto produces.
Yeah.
That's like, again, from a prototype for Yoshi's Island. Like they have all this stuff and they keep everything in mind and they just bring things back sometimes. And I think in Mario, that's kind of the beautiful thing. Nothing is ever truly gone. Even if you're Foreman Spike, even if you're Pauline 8 years ago, if you told me that Pauline was going to be in Mario Kart within my lifetime, I would have been like, no way.
Yeah, that's absolutely. It would have been fantastic.
As much of a dream that was for me, I was like, Pauline, in my mind, because I'd played the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games, I was like, she's got to be in spin-offs eventually, right?
Right.
But I would never in a million years have thought it would have happened.
No,
and
not
then,
at all.
Happened. I freaked out when I saw that trailer because she was only in it for a glimpse.
Yeah.
You got a glimpse of the back of her. And I was like, oh my god.
No, I did the same thing. And like having grown up on Fantendo, like Pauline was pretty common actually, but like because of the cognitive dissonance, all of her renders were like fan made or cobbled together from like Frankenstein from Princess Peach and Daisy and stuff like that. And there were just a million other examples of that kind of thing on Fantendo, but like it was never real. Like we could play around in our sandbox about it, but it was never validated. But now, if I were to just show my 11-year-old self like the current state of the Mario series, it would be almost identical to the stuff that we were making at time and thinking as, total pipe dreams and only putting on there because that's the only place they would belong, because they were like crank theories. It's like, no, Pauline Colleen's never going to come back. It's like, look at us now.
Exactly. And it's kind of reassuring to know that nothing is ever really forgotten
Uh-huh.
in Mario. Like, it would surprise me if Stanley the Bugman came back, but
Yeah.
like, I think that he could very easily come back. Like, it wouldn't be, there's nothing stopping them from just sticking him in a Donkey Kong game, sticking him in a Mario game.
Yeah,
in
you
the
have
next
no
couple
idea
years.
how much I would pog. I would do the little pog face at that. Like, that would be so good.
It'd be beautiful.
I would be so happy about Stanley the Bugman. And I would have been happy about Stanley the Bugman if it had happened when I was 11 as well, you know?
Yeah,
It's like,
I know.
I think another really good example of things never really being gone is like in the sports games and in Mario Kart, they'll just pull Honey Queen out of the ether. They'll pull Ninja out of the ether. In the golf game, they'll put Charge and Chuck in the golf game for some reason, which I just love that decision so much.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah, incredibly good. They put the football turtle in the golf game. Yeah.
And he was in Mario Kart like the same week as well.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They added him
Wild.
to Tor, which was
Yeah,
crazy.
what Tor has been doing for all the criticisms that I think people have.
Poochie
Yeah.
in Mario Kart?
Poochie's there.
Crazy.
That is insane. That's literally Fantendo tier. And when I saw the tweet for that, it was like, I just posted it to all my Fantendo friends being like, this, can you imagine this happening in 2009? Like,
We were just a few years ago, Sophie and I doing like Mario Kart rosters, but like sort of realistic-ish picks, but like ones that would also like fit within the canon and stuff.
Right.
And then after a while, it just kind of went crazy and hype dream stuff. But Poochie was up there as like something that would never happen.
Yeah.
You know? Another one I'd love to see is the Polterpup or something from Luigi's Mansion.
yeah, that would
Or
be
like-
really cute.
Or like even Helen Gravely or something from Luigi's Mansion 3, because I think that she's such a fun character in terms of her dynamic with King Boo and stuff.
Yeah.
Like a really creepy parasocial relationship that they just decided to stick in there.
Yeah.
Never in a million years would I have come up with that.
Yeah, they could capitalize on that so much more. Yeah, Luigi's Mansion 3,
yeah.
really good.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I'm such a huge fan of that game, especially even the intro sequence where you're just in a hotel with Mario and you go into Mario's bedroom, it's full of empty pizza boxes. That adds so much to the characters.
Yeah, it's really cute. And I think sometimes people think the interjections of personality like that are only due to it being essentially like a second party game. But the thing is, I don't think attribution for that sort of thing, we can ever really know who exactly came up with that idea unless they tell us, you know, after the fact. But also, that's true in the sense that that's the nature of collaborative storytelling.
Yeah.
There's going to be some people who fixated on this part of Mario's personality, and there's going to be some people who don't. And obviously, like, Miyamoto is somebody who doesn't fixate on certain aspects of Mario's personality, but the people who made Luigi's Mansion 3 wanted to inject his love for Italian food in there.
It's funny, in my mind, then, it's a kind of a consistent part of his personality within the first party Nintendo sphere. In that Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Odyssey, he dreams about pasta all the time. And in Super Mario Sunshine's intro, Peach is the only one who notices Shadow Mario in the welcome video.
Right.
Because Mario is daydreaming about seafood.
Yeah.
And Toadsworth is daydreaming about relaxing on the beach, which is like so fitting for both of their characters.
Yeah.
You know, it's like with Mario's personality, people tend to just think that he has none. And I think the real issue is that they just don't like it.
Yeah.
They don't like his personality because he's very much a squeaky clean, heroic, nice guy. And I think that that's the reason why people either say he has no personality or they like to believe the whole Mario was mental, you know, NatPat world of things.
No, they gotta learn to accept Mario for who he is. It's amazing, and I think you say that same basic thing, like, really well down here in one of your other comments. Like, yeah, he's just a cool guy.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. I'm also a really big fan of Steven Universe, and, like, I think some people think that Steven is boring because he's so lighthearted, and first of all, have you seen that show? He's got the most trauma of anyone ever, and, like, you know...
God, Future
goes...
like, grounding. Every little, that episode in the hospital.
Yeah.
Where,
incredible.
That is, it completely changed. Like, I don't think I can go back and watch the series the same way, knowing that all those impacts were actual, like, injuries.
Yeah,
and,
his
you know,
Steven Universe's skeleton is scarred. It's horrifying.
Yeah, and I love Steven Universe as well. Steven Universe is quite different from Mario and Adventure Time.
Yes.
In that I think everything was kind of planned out from the beginning. But no, Steven Universe is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I just don't get what people have against characters being positive or nice.
Yeah,
or,
it's like Mario
I
doesn't
think characters-
necessarily have that level of trauma behind all of his actions that we know of.
He does have depth and he has flaws.
Yeah.
And I think people overlook that.
Some people are just nice, and he's not even like 100% perfect as a person, but he is on the whole.
He tries his best, and I think that that's admirable as a character trait. I think that's what everyone should aspire to do. I think that's why he works so well as a hero, because I think Miyamoto said that the way Mario should be portrayed, and this isn't the way that every game portrays him, but I feel like it's sort of the most common portrayal,
Uh-huh.
is that Mario can be a guy who lives near you.
Right.
Like he's a blue-collar working man who...
He's a working class king.
Yeah, and he just found his way into these adventures, and he does all this hero stuff, not because he has superpowers.
Oh, I just happened to scroll to this comment that you left about Paper Mario, which helped me think about this in a lot clearer of a way, because another thing that I wanted to bring up before I let you go is the damn People's Mario poll, which has gotten so many more responses. I think there were maybe like 50 before I posted the video, so like it literally tripled and has been wild for me to keep up with. Also, I added like write-in responses for all of the questions, which people actually, like originally there was just a write-in at the end,
Yeah.
which looks like this. And early days of this poll, it was basically just this, and basically everything from here down was added like after I posted the video, which are like actual like really meticulously meticulously crafted theories. But like now those exist on every fucking question, which I should have known that this would happen, but I mean I was inviting it to happen, but also I just wanted to scroll through for a second and see what 154 people at least think the consensus is. That's fair. This one is inarguable. There's a lot of Peachette discourse that ended up
Debate,
happening. And it seems like most people agree that the Super Crown just transforms people into a Peach-like being, which I just find so interesting.
That is correct, but it only works on Toadette.
Right.
That's explicit lore, that Toadette is the only one that the crown has any effect on.
So
Also,
why?
I think it's because she's the one who discovered it in Captoad Treasure Tracker. She's the first one to touch it, and therefore she is the only one that it works on, or something. Like it bound to her. Actually, since you were talking about Adventure Time, I think it works like the Ice Crown.
It works like the Ice Crown.
Yeah, not nearly as malevolent, I guess.
Yeah.
As in she can take it off and she turns back to normal.
Or as sad. It only, as
Yeah.
we discover in Evergreen, it only does that because one dinosaur one time wished to be like Evergreen.
Like Evergreen, yeah. Such cool lore. I can't. Adventure Time is just amazing. But
it is. Bad dads, bad fathers are responsible for like almost every bad thing that happens in the show, which
so true.
so
actually,
powerful. Yeah, it's a little bit like real life. No, yeah, that makes sense. It's like the Ice Crown. Just watch Adventure Time if you want to understand Peachette.
What we know is that it was made in ancient times. It was sealed in the Grand Labyrinth. Captain Toad and Toadette went on a quest to find it. Toadette got to the room first and possibly touched it before the captain did. And then they both went back to Peach's castle, and New Super Mario Bros. U picks up like right after that. So
I mean, that sounds a lot like what Simon and Betty, or maybe it was just Simon who found the crown. I don't know. The actual antiquarian mission or whatever.
I think it was actually, was it somebody called Sven or something dug it up and then Simon bought it from him? Not positive. I'm pretty sure that was, but yes, I think anyway that if it is like wish based, like the Ice Crown was, is that Toadette wished that she could be like Peach because she really looks up to Peach and respects Peach, and so that turns her into Peachette. I think it's as simple as that.
Damn.
But again, they haven't really elaborated too much on the lore. All we know is it's a really old magical crown. Toadette found it. Now it turns her into Peachette.
It's like the Ice Crown, but less sad.
Yeah.
And there you go. It seems like most people agree that Donkey Kong Jr. is Donkey Kong's dad as a kid, which is what you think too, right?
Yeah, that's Nintendo's current stance.
Yeah.
Has been their stance in every game except for Donkey Kong 64.
No, that tracks. And that's what I've always thought, honestly. And let's see, where were the other interesting ones? Oh yeah, I think in one of your comments you mentioned Pink Donkey Kong Jr. I put him on this at the behest of one of my friends, so this wasn't even my idea to begin with. But
Donkey Kong Jr., yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Junior 2, I think, is just like Purple Captain Toad, or I'm not sure if you've played Treasure Tracker's multiplayer update, but yeah, Purple Captain Toad is just Captain Toad. He doesn't actually exist as a separate being.
Right.
Same goes for the Luigi's in Scarescraper, or 3 extra Marios in the Mario Bros. GBA multiplayer.
Right.
Like, they're just palette swaps of existing characters, and they don't really exist in universe, per se. They're to allow for multiplayer in games which the stories don't allow for multiplayer.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. This is what any normal person would think. But we have to convince ourselves that it is like this because we have the Mario brain disease.
Of course.
Yeah. We already settled Dr. Mario. We've also already settled, or at least as far as you and I are concerned,
Jumpman.
Yeah, Jumpman. He's the same Mario. What do you think about this?
Yeah, so, okay, Mario and Luigi were originally called Mario, and Luigi Mario in the Super Show, I believe.
Right.
Then in the movie, Shigeru Miyamoto has never seen the Super Show, so he caught wind of it after seeing the movie. He thought it was hilarious, but he thought that obviously doesn't apply to the games, and he said in an interview in, like, actually, I think it was the same interview, the Game Informer one we were talking about earlier,
Probably, yeah.
that Mario and Luigi do not have any last names.
Oh yeah, that's
He
right.
just said like they were
Hollywood
so they don't
did
have
a
any last
film
names.
version. I like how he says that.
And so, yeah, I heard this and laughed rather loudly. Of course, it's ultimately included in the film, but just like Mickey Mouse, Mario doesn't really have a last name, even though Mickey Mouse's last name is Mouse. But I get what he's saying.
Yeah.
Mario and Luigi are just Mario and Luigi. And that was his stance until 2015, where he kept getting asked like over and over again in interviews. And eventually he just decided, yeah, okay, they're called Mario and Luigi Mario now. Even though in the games, the reason why they're called the Mario Bros is because Mario is the more well-known of the brothers.
Yeah.
Or like that was the original intent. And they even like bring this up in RPGs and in Mario 64 DS.
Again, that's what a normal person would think.
Yeah, but yeah, so technically Miyamoto has said that Mario's last name is Mario. But this is my counter. One, he was joking.
Yeah.
And two, he also said in a later interview that Link's last name is Link. So, you know, if you want Link to be Link, then sure. But that's the trade-off. If you want Mario to be named Mario, Link is also named Link. That's the hill I'll die on.
I like that a lot. That's a good... I don't even know if that is a compromise, but it's something. It makes karmic sense.
I also like that was somebody saying their last names are Video. Because
yeah, that's what I was just
Mr.
going to say.
Yeah, that's a fun one, but I would like pronounce it. I would say like, oh, his name is Mario Video or something.
Video.
Like, not Video.
Video Kojima.
Yeah, it's a fun one, but again, not much like basis. I don't think they actually ever used the name Mr. Video. I think it was just one they considered and they said no to. So
it's like Heat Miser calling himself Mr. 10 Below. It's like, I think only he calls himself that. Or we already addressed Yoshi, or you already addressed Yoshi. What do you think about Yoshi's name?
Yeah, that is not canon.
Yeah.
Neither is Homa Nintendonus species for being married, because like those come from an NOA character advertising guide.
Yeah,
from
they were just goofing.
And yeah, it's just jokes.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many contradictions because it's not just a Mario document. It's Mario, Zelda, Metroid, Star Fox, Donkey Kong, even like some other rare stuff from the time, Yoshi's Island. It's full of errors. And like I went through and I was like, look, they clearly didn't put all that much thought into it.
Yeah.
It's just for advertisers.
Or at least not the insane amount of thought that the Nintendo seems to put into things. This does, however, acknowledge...
Mention Peach's magical powers, yes.
So, I don't know. That gets at some points for me. I don't know for what exactly.
It also says that Mario is both from Brooklyn and from the Mushroom Kingdom at different points in the same guide. So I'm, a little hesitant.
Yeah, it's got some splaining to do. I hope the authors of that original document will come forward and make reparations. No. Okay, this is just me. I'm clearly in the minority here, but Yoshi's thing on his back being a shell freaks me out.
It's a saddle and a shell. It's both. When I say shell, I mean shell in the Mario sense, because no shells in Mario are natural. They're all like armor or clothes like made to wear.
Right.
Like all the Koopa shells, like Bowser's shell, that's like clothing to him.
That
he can take
makes
it off.
Sense. Yeah.
So for Yoshi wearing a shell or a saddle, it's the same thing. Like it's a shell, but it also functions as a saddle.
Like this is all the evidence you need, truly, if it'll load. Yeah, they wear shirts underneath.
Yep.
So
in Paper Mario, they say that their shells are made to order, and some of them get them factory produced, and they fit less well. And there's like a whole. Some have like shell locks, which is why you can knock Koopas out of their shells in some games and not in others.
It makes perfect sense. Why is it that these things are right in front of us? And I mean, we already talked about this, but like, it's just so funny to me that like these things are right in front of me, and yet I'm blind because I would rather believe. No, see, this is the real hot take. It's because I would rather believe that it's not an organic shell, and it isn't. But like, I would rather believe that it's purely a saddle, and so I've blinded myself into thinking I'm a sheep to my own swan song.
Shells in Mario aren't like a biological thing. It's like a cultural thing. Rocky wrenches, which are moles, used to wear shells.
Right.
Probably provided by Bowser because they work for him. But same thing for Conquistadors from 3D World. They wear shells.
Yeah. I was trying to draw one of those guys recently, and I noticed that for the first time. I was like, is that a shell?
Yeah.
Huh.
I know. So
no, that makes sense.
Yeah, so shells just exist as a thing. Like Mario wears shells in some games.
This upsets me. The concept of a built-in flesh saddle. That sucks. Sorry to whoever wrote that, but that sucks.
That's really good.
We already talked a little bit about Toad. It seems like the movie is doing like Captain Toad origin story heavy lifting.
Well, Captain Toad already has his origin story in the games.
Yeah.
Of course, because he was part of Peach's Castle's staff in Galaxy. He got separated from Peach and they escaped the castle with Luigi. He found a headlamp on planet and then put it on and decided that he was the leader of the Toads. And then they formed the Toad Brigade and had their little spaceship built.
It's a
self-forming
government.
Yeah. yeah, and then he returned to Earth, and they started going on adventures looking for more stars and treasure to help Mario on his adventures. Captain Toad in the games definitely isn't the same Toad. The director of Captain Toad Treasure Tracker has confirmed this on Miiverse.
Oh, interesting. On
Years ago.
Miiverse.
So Miiverse, yeah. So they made a post saying, by the way, Captain Toad is not the same main Toad you play as in games like Super Mario Bros. 2 and Wario's Woods. So the movie seems to be merging the characters, but like, again, games, definitely different people.
Wait, they mentioned Wario's Woods in that Miiverse post?
Yes.
They uttered the name Wario's Woods?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy. I didn't know that at all.
I guess it's one of Toad's main starring roles, so I suppose it's relevant. But yeah.
Yeah, like even still but I guess not until Captain Toad. Your timeline brings up Birdo and the connection of Super Mario RPG to Super Mario Brothers 2 and stuff like that. That was another like eye-opening moment. I'm gonna just control F Birdo. Yeah, Birdo is born here. It's one of the ones that's hatched out of the big Birdo that you fight in Mario RPG. That's wild.
Yep.
Yeah. And Wario's Woods. Another Wario's Woods connection.
Yep. That was like, I love Birdo as well. Birdo has a great character arc, I feel. That she went from a villain to an ally to she fell in love with Popple in Superstar Saga, and then she fought Mario and Luigi again, and they beat her, and she was like, okay, screw you guys then. I'm gonna go out and become like a star.
Right.
And then in the new Paper Mario games, she's an actress and she's a singer. So like, go her, you know?
Man, they're dead naming really Birdo at the Olympics and stuff. That always rubbed me the wrong way. We're dead naming Birdo right now.
No. She's happy with Birdo.
Is she?
Yeah, she calls herself Birdo all the time.
I guess she does. Huh.
I think Birdetta and Birdie are nicknames that she likes to be called as well by her friends, but it's not like a dead name situation.
Interesting. Okay.
Because in Superstar Saga, she asks Popple to call her Birdie when she's like dating Popple.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Superstar Saga.
So I don't think it's or at least if it was like a dead name thing, it's not like that's been soft retconned.
Right.
You know, but she calls herself Birdo all the time. That's how she introduced herself.
That's true.
In tens of games.
That's
so
true.
I think she would know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I would defer to her for that, as with anyone.
Yeah.
This was also an eye-opening moment for me. I had to search for it for a minute, but the fact that you looped in chemistry, a game mechanic that they have in Mario Superstar Baseball. And it's like, well, yes, this tracks.
Yeah.
Truly.
I mean, they did put a lot of thought into the chemistry. I think a lot of characters have chemistry that makes sense. And then some characters have like really interesting chemistry. Like Bowser and King K. Rool have bad chemistry.
Right.
And you're like, did they have, again, going back to the Bowser tank thing from earlier, Bowser might have operated in the Kong archipelago at some point.
Right, they had a military dispute
with King K. Rool.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe it's just as simple as like King K. Rool treats his minions like crap and Bowser respects his minions. So maybe Bowser just doesn't like the way K. Rool rules.
So Bowser doesn't respect K. Rool.
Yeah, it could be as simple as that. So it's just interesting to think about. So I love like just going onto the chemistry page of Mario Wiki and seeing which characters like each other and which ones don't. It's fun.
That's wild.
And how they change between games, you know?
That's fascinating. We established, and again, I'm saying we established, I'm just saying for our own purposes, because obviously the purpose of the People's Mario is democracy.
Yes. Yes.
I'm using democracy in a weird way, but we already dealt with the baby stuff. We've definitely put baby Rosalina to bed, I think, which I feel a lot better about, just sort of temporally, because I was operating on the idea that the whole timeline was broken beyond repair.
I mean, my friend Red Queen Miku that I mentioned earlier on some videos said that Super Mario RPG wasn't canon because it completely broke the timeline, and I was like, what did you mean by that?
Yeah.
She was like, she genuinely just couldn't remember what her issue was.
Yeah. I mean, like the Square stuff, it definitely looks a little bit more out of place. Also, a huge eye-opening moment isn't your argument that like, no, Mario 3 isn't a stage play, or it was interpreted as a stage play later, but based on true events, and the game just looks like that because it's an artistic choice? And then that got me thinking about art style and how that's interpreted literally or not literally by some people. That also reminds me of Adventure Time, because did you ever hear somebody said at some point that like everybody has beady eyes?
Yes,
because
the beady eyes, the eyes are covered by more skin.
Yeah,
it's like crazy
genetic mutation that happened after the bomb, like, and that art style decision is actually really literal. And then that turns, at least me, when I heard that the first time, I was like, oh, what other things are literal, or to like the amount of fingers literal.
Yeah.
That's why they can't do it in
mean-
live action Adventure Time, is because they'd look fucking horrifying.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it makes sense with how the farm world people all have regular eyes.
Right.
Yeah, so it's crazy how Adventure Time keeps coming up.
I'm thinking about it a lot because I'm working on that video right now.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it literally yesterday. I was just thinking about, because like sometimes I just go through a phase of like thinking about Adventure Time all again.
No, me
and
too. The Koopalings thing. We've already gotten our stance on these. Or I guess I haven't really shared my personal stance on some of these. I'm inclined to agree with you about most things, TBH, because it just makes sense. And I would feel that way regardless if I had been exposed to this information earlier. Yeah, I mean, honestly, most of these, I'm pretty sure these are already something that has been addressed. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting ideas in this about what is and isn't canon. And you're definitely like, if the timeline's anything to go off of, that's definitely a more like maximalist approach. But
yeah, well, even I'm not like 100% maximalist, I would
Right.
say, because some people think that everything, like literally every single licensed piece of Mario media, every
yeah, like
toy,
the show and stuff. Yeah.
every show,
Uh-huh.
every like Lego Mario
Right.
or whatever would be canon.
Yeah.
But like if you get to that stage, in my mind, it's like that's the same thing as saying there's no canon.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like,
If
it's
everything
like
is, then
Syndrome.
nothing is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think that's
no,
fair. Yeah, I think
think
that's entirely fair.
Yeah, I think what I consider canon was initially based on, okay, so main series. What does the main series reference as canon? Okay, those are canon. Let's just assume they're canon. What do they reference as canon?
Right.
And so on and so forth. And that builds out a branch of series. And then I went through all those games, and the commonality that I noticed was that they're all published by Nintendo. So for me, my canon rule set is stipulation A is that it has to be a Nintendo published title.
Right.
And B is that it is not a crossover title. So like not Mario and Sonic, not Mario and Rabbids. Mario Kart 8 I see as like a Mario game with guest characters. That's not the same thing as like an full-on crossover game.
Yeah, I think that's
You
fair.
get me? So like, and then in interviews and stuff, we know that Mario plus Rabbids isn't canon, for example. That's Davide Soliani, who directed that game, has said that it's just its own fun side parallel world, not related to the main Mario canon. So
Right.
and also I think that's funny because the fact that he clarified that it's not part of the main Mario canon would imply that there is a Mario canon to begin with.
Right, that they've talked about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like-
so I think that's yet more evidence.
Oh my god. I need sometime at some point before I die, at some point before I leave this earth, I need to see those internal documents, because you know
Yeah.
that anything has to exist. Like, I need to see what that looks like and like how thorough it is, or
Yeah.
how not thorough
I wouldn't be
it is.
surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't that thorough. Because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it is just make it up as you go along. Sometimes tie back to other things, but then at the same time, I'm thinking about again going back to that thing in Mario Maker from the scrapped Yoshi's Island prototype, and I'm like, they keep everything. So
Yeah, but it's
maybe
just
there is that much.
I think the usher of it ultimately is just people who care, you know?
Yeah.
So if you care, then it's alive.
And I think when you have people like Yoshiaki Koizumi at the helm of Mario, as he has been since Super Mario Sunshine, he's someone who cares deeply and personally about Mario's story. And I think that it's a shame, honestly, that he wasn't involved in the movie at all, because I think that he would have had some good insight there. But like, I'm glad that he is still so prominently involved with Mario games. And it's really funny because I see Zelda fans always saying that he's wasted on Mario because he did some of the best Zelda stories as well.
Right.
But I'm like, no, please keep him on Mario.
Yeah,
because
why
he's
not?
so good.
Yeah, why not just have him on a bunch of things? Like,
Yeah.
more is good.
Yeah.
And also, like, I think there's been this, I don't know if you saw the Arlo video recently, not to, like,
Yeah.
cause YouTube beef or whatever, but, like, there's this interesting, like, dichotomy between Koizumi and Miyamoto, which I definitely addressed in my video as well, and probably perpetuated a bit, but, like, I just think it's alternate forms of storytelling, you know? Both of which
Yeah.
are valid. It's just that, like, one is a little bit closer to, you know, traditional forms of storytelling.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Miyamoto is actually kind of on the cutting edge in a lot of ways, like doing a lot of this through gameplay and inferences.
I think I haven't seen the Arlo video, but from what I've heard, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I generally like Arlo.
Oh yeah, me too.
I think he's a lot of fun. But this specific perception that Miyamoto hates story, I think, is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because, and it's funny, 'cause I think he's clarified it in about 10 different interviews. There's
Yeah.
like a site where you can see all these Miyamoto interviews, and it's like it comes up multiple times, that he has to clarify again and again that he does not hate story. He just prioritizes gameplay over story,
Right.
and then believes in natural story integration through gameplay.
Right.
In that you experience the story through playing the game rather than through a text dump or a cutscene that you don't get to engage with.
Yeah.
And I really respect that method of storytelling. And like he can, even though he's not writing the stories, he can still encourage that principle with the games that he is overseeing, you know? And I think that, and Koizumi gets that as well. Koizumi really respects that and agrees with Miyamoto in a lot of ways in terms of story. And I think that it's quite sad that people sort of misconstrue what Miyamoto has said in terms of story. Like a lot of people think, again, that Koizumi had to write the storybook in secret in Galaxy and then had to sneak it past him and that he had no idea it was in the game or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, that's not true. It was that Koizumi had this story, which he said was very personal to him. And so he wrote it on his own without any of the rest of the development team. He devised it all on his own because it was so important to him.
Right.
And then he pitched it to Miyamoto.
Yeah,
first.
Miyamoto signed off on
And-
it. Like he wouldn't have. It
Yeah,
wouldn't be
and-
in the game
yeah.
if he didn't sign off on it.
Exactly. Miyamoto said, "You did this on your own at night without anyone else," and he was like, "Why?" And Koizumi just said, "Because it was really important to me." And I mean, I can't fault him for that. I mean, I would do the same if I had a really personal story. I'd keep it to myself until it was ready to be presented.
Yeah. No, that
know?
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but then all these articles at the time taking the quote and painting Miyamoto as like some anti-story villain who stops people from, you know, who you have to sneak the story past. You know,
Right.
it's like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, like I can imagine myself as like somebody young at Nintendo and like maybe feeling stifled by that in that like inclination away from story if I was trying to incline closer to it. But I think that represents like a misunderstanding of the philosophy. It's not a binary, it's just two different ways, but they're not even really that different. I think ultimately, I think in conveyance they are, but in practice, you're still kind of gleaning. As humans, I think we do a certain amount of storyizing of things, and so we're interpreting this gameplay as story. I think something in non-Nintendo that does the Miyamoto method of things, as we're describing it here, is Tunic, if you've played that.
Don't think I have.
Yeah, Tunic is a lot like 2D Zelda, but it like literally you have to do everything in that game. You have to figure out everything in that game by translating like runes, and you literally have to like translate this fictional language to figure out anything. And also the thing that allows you to progress in the game is you're putting together a book, but the book is like an instruction booklet for the game.
For the game
Itself, essentially.
Yeah.
And there's like lore behind that kind of justifies it, but also it's supposed to, or a lot of people feel like it's supposed to be like the experience of playing Zelda 1, where the instruction book was all you had. Basically, that's where you gleaned everything from. And I think people see the introduction of a more traditional form of storytelling as like an advancement of the medium of games, but really I think it's just, it may have been a different way back then, partially because of limitations, but I also think it's just different people doing different things.
Absolutely.
Taking
Yeah, and I
approaches.
couldn't agree more. I think that part of Mario's design philosophy is that limitation feeds creativity.
Right.
And I mean, so much of the staples of Mario came from limitations.
Uh-huh.
Even Mario design is based on the limitations of his character. Like they gave him a hat because they couldn't render hair. They gave him a mustache because they thought a mouth would look weird.
Right.
They gave him overalls because they only had limited colors and they couldn't render the arms moving separately from a t-shirt. So like, you know, it's all based on limitations. The reason why Goombas exist is because they thought Koopa Troopas were too tricky and they had just enough space to squeeze in one more sprite. And so they made the one sprite and they flipped it back and forth. And so now they have like an evil mushroom. Like, that's just how it happened.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, even stuff like all the toads, not all the toads, but the vast majority of toads look the same. And that's a conscious lore decision that they've kept consistent. That comes from the early games where they couldn't render that many different looking toads.
Yeah,
you know?
and even now, like, as technology has improved, it's still a more economical decision to recolor models, you know?
Yeah, it so is. Like, I can never get over Super Mario Sunshine and how the majority of NPCs have all these different clothing and colors, and that's never been done again in a 3D Mario.
Yeah.
Disappointingly, I would have loved if Odyssey even attempted doing that.
Yeah, me too.
Because it just makes the world feel so much more grounded and stuff. But
I think that feeling is like where the disappointment is coming from, and where the urge to make sense of it comes from. It's like, this isn't how I want it to be anymore, so there must be a reason why. But I think the reason why is just like, no, people just have different priorities, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
This is something that I don't even really, as a white person, don't even really have the authority to speak on. But the way that I've always kind of interpreted interpreted Mario's looking the way that he does in
Yeah.
New Donk City is that, like, he is a literal immigrant. So I kind of saw him before I changed my mind on the stork thing, but maybe this also kind of correlates, maybe how your baby looks correlates to, like, what you are or where you wish it from.
I think the genetics do carry over from the parents. So like when two parents make a wish, it's like the same as sexual reproduction in real life. Like the genes, they're taken from both parents.
Him being a cartoon person is supposed to, because essentially like every kingdom in the Mario world has a different art style essentially. So it's like this means that Mario is an Italian American immigrant essentially, but like in the Mushroom Kingdom version of that, like he came from somewhere else. And so that's to emphasize his feeling out of place in a place that was not originally his home, you know?
And I think you're exactly right in that. Mario, around the time of Super Mario Odyssey, people were like, is Mario even human now? You know, like that was the whole big question. Koizumi said that yes, Mario is human and that there are just many different types of people in the world, you know, as in real life.
Yeah.
And
just like the real world, but just exaggerated.
Yeah, and I think a Nintendo rep at the same time also said that Mario is quote unquote a native son of the Mushroom Kingdom. And, you know, obviously they still have all the Donkey Kong lore where he lived in the city, but yeah, I think you're exactly on the money there. He is supposed to feel out of place. He is an immigrant. I think he and Luigi and their parents. But then,
and so would Pauline be as well?
I don't think so. I think Pauline. So I think the New Donkers, as we see them in Odyssey, the vast majority of them are probably people who are originally from the Metro Kingdom region, like going back centuries. And I think there are smaller populations of the cartoony Mario humans also living in the city. I think Pauline maybe has one parent from both parties.
She's mixed.
You know? She's mixed. I think so.
Interesting.
Maybe not.
I gave that some thought. That was definitely one of the things that was on my mind. A lot of people seem to think that Mario's Earth shifts around in a non-Euclidean fashion, as I described it here. Now, you brought up the art style and like art style being taken literally. And you said something in one of your comments, I forget which one, but about the maps specifically, it being like, well, yeah, like people draw maps differently. Like look at maps throughout history on Earth. They're drawn in a different style and the art of the game is just being taken. Like they're not even necessarily literal interpretations of the world within the games themselves because maps are not necessarily that.
Yeah.
But also it's like an art style thing.
Yeah.
That like applies to the games themselves and the way that they're being interpreted to us, the player. So do you think that like the world does shift around though, or what?
I think, look, I've been working with Mario maps now for like really since Odyssey.
Yeah.
I did do ones beforehand. I don't think they're very accurate. But, you know, since Odyssey came around and gave us an actual proper planet to work with, I think that I've come to realize that there's really no reason to believe that it does shift around. What we do know is that Peach's castle grounds do shift around and that Bowser's castle's grounds do shift around. And not shift around in the sense of like changing location. I mean, shift around in that they are completely like remodeled as time goes on, partially due to the ongoing wars, partially due to just recreational events like building a tennis dome next to the castle or building a racetrack around it like Royal Raceway. So like, yes, like Toad Town does change in universe. That town is demolished and built back up again every few months just because they're crazy rich people who play sports. But
are the Toads bourgeoisie? Are they the upper class?
Apparently, yeah. Well, according to like dialogue on Paper Mario, it's like Toad Town is the big city. It's like the capital. So you think it would be hard to live there, but also it's probably dirt cheap because they're constantly attacked by Bowser, and because their homes are upended to build a stadium every now and then.
It's a little bit like the why would anyone live in Gotham City type argument.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of question. But the Toads seem to enjoy the events and stuff, so I don't think there's any political issues there. But yeah, it's in terms of the rest of the Mushroom Kingdom, we usually just see different parts of it, and it's not like when you're playing Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, we see just the area that we explore in that game. And it's not like it's not like the Bean Kingdom doesn't exist. It's still to like the south of the area that we play in Bowser's Inside Story. It's mentioned by characters in multiple parts of the game. And I think people kind of, I don't know why, but they just assume that because the entire world map isn't filled out in excruciating detail in every single game, that's inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I really don't think it is. I think it's just still exists. They're just not going to add all these locations that you can't actually explore as the player.
Yeah.
But that's partially why Al Delfino was probably removed from the map in the final game of Super Mario Sunshine because they didn't want to promise people this location on the map that they can't actually visit.
That's why some of my friends and I thought that it would be like DLC, is because it was in that little thing. They were like, oh, well, we don't want to do that because that would be a misconception.
Misleading. Oh. It doesn't mean that the developers suddenly don't think Isle Delfino exists. It's not like they said it sank into the ocean. Mario still buys an outfit from Sunshine in Crazy Cap. You know, there's still mentions of Sunshine lore. There's plenty of callbacks to the game. But the point is, when you're designing a game, purely from a game design perspective, you're not going to include references to every location that has ever existed. It's just ridiculous to do so. And I wouldn't expect that in the most grounded, story-driven games.
No.
You know, like I wouldn't expect that level of commitment. And of course, it would be great if they did.
Yeah.
But I think it's insane.
It would be kind of neat. But like the map would also probably be really difficult to navigate as like the player, unless you were like constantly focused on it, but you could look at the other places. It's like, why would devote resources to that? Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
What we do on Marioverse is we take all these maps and we put them together like it's a jigsaw puzzle, you know, and it works. Well, at least so far. Things just tend to slot into places together and they don't seem to overlap, at least not significantly. So we're in quite a good place. Like, again, a lot of people think that, the map's constantly changing and it's inconsistent, but I think that they really haven't dug themselves a hole in terms of what they've mapped so far in Mario. And, you know, who knows, maybe the next game will come out and it'll conflict with everything that we've done already, but like Origami King came out relatively recently and that fits in just fine with what we had already. There was literally a blank space on the map and then, all of a sudden Overlook Mountain slots in here. Yeah, like that was literally what happened. So yeah, I mean, again, subject to change, as is always the case. I know Zelda often has mapping inconsistencies, but people just justify them by, the games take place hundreds of years apart, you know, don't think about it too much. So I think if it does end up being the case, it'll just be, look, don't think about it too much. The mapping is a little inconsistent. It just is. That's something you have to live with, unfortunately.
And the mapping is a little bit inconsistent in the real world too, you know?
Yeah.
At least presumably.
For the time being, at least as of right now, it works just fine. So yeah.
What, because we could probably talk about this for ages, as evidenced by I think we've been talking for like 4 hours.
4 hours,
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm really enjoying it, so.
Me too. What, in true like Marvel movie fashion, do you think any Nintendo games share a universe in the canon that is written right now? Obviously, there's some potential Punch-Out references in the movie and stuff. We're not talking about the movie. We're talking about as it is in the game. Right now.
As it is right now in the game universe, Mario, Donkey Kong, Yoshi, and Wario share a universe, of course. Outside of that, I really don't think so. At most, Punch-Out maybe takes place on Earth in an alternate dimension to Mario's, which is like a whole other thing. But even then, like Punch-Out has 2 separate universes. The Punch-Out Wii universe is separate from the original NES one. So, and Donkey Kong appears in that and Mario appears in the original. So like, how do you divide that up? So I personally just think that, Mario gets referenced in a lot of other things and a lot of other things get referenced in Mario, but it doesn't go further than just cameos or references. Like as Zelda Dimension and Animal Crossing Dimension, a Splatoon Dimension, they exist in Mario's like universe bubble, but they aren't the same ones from their respective canons.
That's interesting. Okay, so it's a different Isabelle.
That's my perspective on it, at least, because I feel like if you go any further than that, if you try to connect Zelda and Mario, the lore isn't going to mesh. Things are just going to get really muddy, and having to consider all the Zelda games when discussing implications for the Mario world is just not worth it. I think
it's not particularly feasible. The one thing that I've seen that I think kind of works on a surface level, but I haven't really looked into it because I haven't really played a lot of Link's Awakening, but it's like, I got an email from somebody recently that was like, Link's Awakening and the setting of Mario Brothers 2 are like connected tenuously through Subcon, basically. Like it's a land of dreams, and that it exists in, and I think they even looped in some other Nintendo series into it as well.
They did, yeah. There was SimCity in Link's Awakening, but like, so there are connections. Mad Seinstein, or Scheinstein, not sure how to, Dr. Aroe Shitane or something like that. I can't remember his name. But from the Wario Land games.
Oh yeah, that's right.
He is originally from The Frog for Whom the Bell Tolls.
Oh yeah, that's right. Prince Sable.
But the Wario lore, I guess, makes it clear that he is not the same individual, despite being the same character in the sense of, oh yes, he is that character. He is a separate iteration, you know? And I think that same principle applies to Wart in Link's Awakening and like all the other Mario characters that are represented there.
Sure.
Especially since Wart in the Mario universe is a conqueror. He moves between dream worlds. He takes over different locations in the Dream World, including Subcon, as he did it twice.
Right.
And then you go over to Link's Awakening, and Wart has like a slightly different design, and also he's like a singer,
Yeah.
right? Like a musician.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, on a surface level, okay, they're both Dream Worlds, and they both have this guy. But also, like, Nintendo sometimes just likes to use characters from other things in other universes that are unrelated.
Right.
I think that they have kind of a grab bag of characters that they just like to throw into things sometimes. And that's fine. You know, like, that's fun. But I don't think reading into it does anyone any favors, especially since, like, Koholint from Link's Awakening is entirely the Windfish's dream.
Right.
Specifically. And also, it's a physical island. Like, Koholint physically manifested within the Zelda planet. I guess it is called Hyrule as well. But so it's not the exact same as the Dream World in Mario, where, yes, it also technically physically exists as a dimension, but it's comprised of people's dreams. Like, it doesn't manifest in the actual Mario world. And also, with Koholint, when the Windfish woke up, everything on the island ceased to exist.
Right.
So that would mean that Wart would have ceased to exist, which then wouldn't work with Mario because he's still mentioned infrequently to this day. So yeah, and then there's like the whole Zelda timeline. I mean, there's two Links from opposite ends of the Zelda timeline in Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
And yeah, Mario has time travel, but it's like, how do you reconcile that in terms of like when Zelda takes place in comparison to Mario? I think reading into that too much is fun, but it shouldn't be taken too seriously, you know?
I think it kind of goes into your rules for deciding what was and wasn't canon in Mario to begin with. Maybe another stipulation is that it like has to be Mario or its sub-series.
Yeah, that is the rule for me. It has to be a Mario franchise game published by Nintendo.
Yeah,
like
franchise, which, you know, is, and like if we get more Captain Toad games, like we're gonna have to deal with that eventually, but those are pretty clearly tied to the main series in a way that I
same for Luigi's Mansion, Wario, Yoshi. And I think it's really funny, I was talking about that canon video that I made with Nintendo recently, and in the comments people were like, no, clearly the movie's just retconning the games. Like, all these inconsistencies are just retcons. And I don't think these people understand what a retcon is.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can't just irreconcilably change things about a plot to the extent that it's completely different.
Yeah.
You know? And like, I think that what's more is that Nintendo, as the new tour in Mario Kart Tour, which added Poochie, is still very clearly referencing Yoshi's Island as the canonical Mario backstory.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that it's not like they're completely acting as if Yoshi's Island doesn't exist now.
Yeah. And like in the theme parks and stuff, not that, canon for those
it's still relevant to the world of the games.
Yeah, it's still relevant to the world, and it's also still relevant to the brand, you know?
Yeah, of course.
Which I think is important, or it becomes important. And yeah, just why I think your original comment was so well written is that you got me in sense of a like 5-paragraph essay type structure, because you got me with the hook here that none of these are actually inconsistencies, and then you go on to restate that at the end of the comment. Like, and it's so well formed, and my mind is so thoroughly changed about Mario now.
Oh, well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Appreciate that, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, no.
People, but yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna let you go live your life now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking so much time to dissect these things. And now here is the straight dope. For these reasons, I now believe the Mario canon to be a lot more consistent and intentional than I had been giving it credit for. Or, if not intentional, at least fashioned into a shape that feels more intentional than I thought. This has all been a long and winding way for me to say, go subscribe to Sean's channel. His interpretation of Mario's story quite literally enlightened me. Coming to the conclusion I did at the end of my original video, making peace with the fact that Mario is more of a cartoon sandbox than a deep linear story, but that stories can be told and have meaning within that framework to the same extent that a more unified game world would have, felt like a galaxy brain moment for me. But Sean's comments made me realize, wait, there actually is a grand design. It kind of is that deep. The people who made this series do care as much as I do, if not more. They're just using less traditional forms of storytelling. It validated my terminally wiki-brained kid self who I had been trying to soothe into a sort of agnosticism. I believe now there is a god in the Mario world, and it is not cruel. It is Koizumi as much as it is Miyamoto, as much as it is everyone who helped shape these seemingly disparate elements into cohesion. Which means it's all of us, too. Mario doesn't have no god. It has every god. What's up, hello? This is Tucker from the really far future. I'm getting over a cold, as you can probably tell. In a somewhat nasally voice, I've come to say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. The goal of this video was threefold. I wanted to relate the profundity of my experience talking to Sean to others. I wanted to take after Sean and present the Mario fan community with my own curated bits of facts and logic, TM, and maybe sow some harmony among them. And I wanted to correct my own factual errors from the last video. Hopefully, I've accomplished some of these things. The multi-hour video and the interview-style video were both things I've always wanted to try, and trying both simultaneously on top of freelance and my own projects and my quote-unquote real job was a massive undertaking, to be sure. I've discovered I honestly don't love the tedium of combing through footage for these kinds of things. It's definitely one of the many things I'd love to solicit help for, however, I only feel good doing that if I'm able to pay people appropriately for their labor, which currently I cannot. Patreon.com/TuckerWoolley and my Ko-fi are places to go if you want to help me do that. Video editing is also kind of a struggle for me. I wanted to put so much thought and intentionality into every frame of footage I chose for this, but I just lacked the time and energy to do so I'll be the first to admit that I was definitely sloppy at points. Again, if I could afford help, I would solicit it, but since I can't, I gotta make some compromises so I don't beat my head against the wall and you still get a decent product out of it. Definitely part of my intention with this was to emulate, if not just take footage whole cloth from the experience of me being on call with Sean and flipping through a million browser tabs. At many points, I just wanted to drop the audio from me and Sean's conversation and leave it at that. But I knew our points would hold up much better with actual video footage. I tried to find everything. I'm sure I left something out somewhere that you're more than welcome to point out in the comments. I'd love for this video's comments section to be a non-toxic place of discussion, just like the first one was. It's not the first or last time I'll say this, but I think the moral of the story is that a fictional universe with genuine love and care put into it, whether that care is coming from official sources or fans or both, is super meaningful to people, and I think there's a certain responsibility one has to shepherd that and honor the care and labor that's already been put in when making new stuff. But also, this can be done without, like, sending Nintendo death threats when the new Paper Mario isn't what you'd prefer it to be like. Don't do that! But yeah, thus concludes my story of how being publicly wrong about Mario ended up being kind of a religious experience for me. I wish I could realistically just drop the mic and never talk about Mario like this again after today, but I guarantee Nintendo will do some fuck shit, as they are prone to do. Also, I have at least one other Mario-related video on the horizon for this channel. It's a collaboration with my longtime friend and incredible author and artist V.F. Thompson, and I'm excited for y'all to see what we cook up. And yes, it is about the movie. You'll probably be able to see it way early on my Patreon. I plugged this in the last one too, but if what I had to say about copyright and intellectual property in this video compelled you, check out my cartoon Super Nimbus Quest, and stay tuned for the sequel video, Super Nimbus RPG, which is basically just going to be a big trailer for an RPG that doesn't exist. Speaking of things that only sort of exist, I have a lot of fictional universes of my own. The one I can recommend most if you resonated with the long-windedness of this video is my cartoon concept Pigbog's Kingdom, which exists in the form of various animatics elsewhere on this YouTube channel, and in the Pigbog's Kingdom Pitch Tome, a 100-plus page developmental document for a comedy adventure show I have way too many ideas for. I'm still making stuff for it to this day, including bonus pages with ideas for seasons and arcs and characters and all kinds of stuff. So check it out if you want to see another fictional universe that at least one person on Earth really cares about. Finally, thank you again to Sean. Go consume his content and the content of his contributors. Wahoo!